Welcome to the Amstel Gold Race, the first of 3 Ardennes Classics that mark the transition. Well, the strong cobbled specialists to, of course, a paradise for, well, explosive climbers, especially if you've got a good punch. And we know that one man who's got several knockout blows already to his name is Mathieu van der Poel. Question is, can he be beaten today? It could well be that the world is up against him today. He's certainly the major threat. We're already deep into today, but we will, of course, remind you about what is in store. The world champion, is he in a class of his own? Well, it kind of seems that way at the moment. He is just in such dominant form. It's frightening. He's come to the season very late. He opened his account with Milan-San Remo, finished 10th, won the E3 Saxo Classic, runner-up in Ghent-Wevelgem, little hiccup, won Flanders, and of course Roubaix. He looks absolutely unstoppable. A man who came close last time by was Ben Healy, runner-up for EF Education Easy Post last year when Tadej Pogačar was busy having his fun. Let's speak to Ben Healy on what the battle plan might be to unpick Mathieu van der Poel's challenge.
Yeah, in the team you have some cars with yourself, with Marijn van den Berg. To win, both of you need different circumstances of races. What do you expect? What do you want to do today?
Yeah, I mean, as a team, we're strong, and I think we can play numbers in this race, which for sure will give us some sort of advantage. And yeah, me and Marijn would like a different type of race, and I don't think it's up to us to really dictate how that race goes. So yeah, we have many cards to play today.
And how do you expect that race will go from your opponents?
Yeah, I mean, I think Van der Poel is the main favourite here, and yeah, they're not going to really want to ride it super hard. I think Mathieu can win however the race is raced. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes on the road today.
So how we do when it's like that?
yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I hope he's been on holiday since Roubaix. That's yeah.
Thank you, and best of luck.
And best of luck, absolutely everybody. Tadej Pogačar won last year. Mikko Kwiatkowski races again. Wout van Aert in 2021 was our winner. No race in 2020 due to COVID, but Mathieu van der Poel is a former winner, having taken it in 2019. Gosh, let's have a look at the early pictures from today, shall we? How indeed has it been shaping up so far? Well, they waved them off this morning, and I've got to tell you, it was a strange one today. The women's race was interrupted by a police incident, incidentally, and indeed that blockage in the road, kind of a confused scenario, I guess you might say, caused a slight amendment to the men's race. Now, it had all gone according to plan at the beginning of the day, with plenty of riders wanting to get themselves off and up the road. But when news came through, indeed, of a blockage on the road and a slight amendment to the men's course, they missed out the Bergsweg climb. And as a result, they had to jump to the Kornweg. In the meantime, no panic, early doors. Mathieu van der Poel getting himself a bike change. And as you can see, bunny hopping and looking absolutely magnificent, unstressed and ready to do his duty, which, of course, as world champion and multiple winner this year, is to deliver. Well, some bumps and bruises along the way, always happening, it seems, these days. And a little bit too much of this, but thankfully, everyone back and aboard their steeds, relaying themselves back in. Juan Ayuso, one of those who could certainly challenge at the end of today. Bloodied but unbowed, a few others as well. Looked more grisly than perhaps it actually was, but medical car was very busy today. So some bumps and bruises we have. We've also got ourselves a keen breakaway. That's Zeb Kiffin, by the way, just off the back here of this quartet. We have Leitzer for, indeed, DSM Firmenich Post NL, the bubble kit at the front here. In the yellow, Tosh van der Sande, great stager, 33 years of age right now, has had many, many excellent runs within what's been a career where he's often had to be in support of others. And maybe he's the battle plan for Team Visma Lease Bike, who've got Thijs Benoot and Mathieu Jorgensen, who hope to do something later on today. And Alexander Hayek is also here for Bora Hansgrohe, the Austrian there in the double green, just to the right of the trio, who are circulating nicely. Well, with 88.6 kilometres of the day remaining, we're just approaching our final loop of many that concentrate the minds, especially in this part of the world. And these are the climbs that are coming up. The Coburg is still to be dealt with. That climb has kind of come and gone as far as the organisers are concerned. It's been part of their battle plan. It used to be the final climb, then they got rid of it altogether, and then everyone complained, so they put it back in, albeit taken for the final time at a distance of 18.6 kilometres from home, with still 2 further climbs to come. The idea and the reason for those chops and changes is to make the racing as evened out as possible, and for there to be no specialists. And I think that's the character of this race. It very much feels a transition into the Ardennes. And as a result, this race can throw up some surprises. We've certainly had those in the women's race today. I don't want to give too much away because I know many of you would like to catch up with that. It was very dramatic and a hugely dramatic finale. In fact, hairs on the back of the neck still standing up. As is the case whenever, of course, I introduce Brian Smith. He is waiting to launch. He's looking pensive. He's got his finger on his lips as if he's trying to be quiet at the moment, but I know that he's in deep thought. And today, with only 87.6 kilometres of what is an extraordinarily long day of 253.6 kilometres in total, save for the little amendment that we've had today, 33 climbs, over 3,000 metres of altitude gain. Brian, who's going to win?
Well, that's the thing. We've got a star-studded start list today. We heard from some of the riders right from the start, and was that Ben Healy saying that you wished that Mathieu van der Poel would maybe have gone on holiday maybe this week? Maybe they stand a chance. Okay, this was his first kind of big win. Another dramatic final to that edition. But we get so many kind of top riders. Cosnefroy, who we heard from, had a good win in Brabant Spiel. But like you were saying, Carlton, there, that this race used to be the kind of start of the kind of hilly races. You had Amstel Gold, Flèche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and it used to finish at the top of the Coburg. But nowadays, I think it was after the World Championships were here, and they extended it to a finish a little bit further on, and not like the women's race that finishes in the same finishing line as the World Championships did a few years ago. They have the Coburg to finish with. Well, we go up the Coburg in this lap, past the finishing line, and do a 16-kilometre lap before the finish, so it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. It can come down to a sprint, it can come down to individuals. I think the POG show last year was incredible to witness. Ben Healy putting in a tremendous result. Tom Pidcock was up there, but the lineup they've got here is second to none, and it's how they're going to play it. The thing is, this is a home race for the Visma Lease Bike, and in the past, Amstel Gold, when it used to be the kind of Rabobank team, they used to try and, whether they win it or not, they used to try and kind of take control. Well, they've got Tosh van der Sand here in the breakaway. Very important, as you know, from the DSM team with Post NL in here. But this race, I rode it many, many years ago. Totally different finish. Used to start and finish in Maastricht. But it's just twists and turns, road furniture, hidden dangers. It's chaotic. I had, I think, one of the first, with Motorola, we had one of the first radios in our ears, and it was constant Henny Kuiper, constant in our ears, because it's constantly lefts, rights, up, downs, furniture all over the place, and it's incredible. And it was constant chatter in the ear, but you needed it because of the course that we've got here.
If you want constant chatter, then we've got a treat for you today. Head over to Instagram and we'll find what's occurring. It's an Instagram Live with Eurosport Cycling, so go and look up at Eurosport Cycling. And there you will find a couple of mates who will share the day with you. Brian, it's quite a challenge for people. Well, it certainly would be for me, tech-wise, but you can enjoy it with, of course, well, who are our guests, Brian? Would you like to tell us?
The guest for what? I don't know what you're
I'll
talking
tell you.
about.
It's Luke Rowe and G himself, Geraint Thomas. So if you want some mates to share the day, then head over to Instagram Live at Eurosport Cycling, where the boys already are sharing their thoughts. We're giving them a wave at the moment. Hello, fellas. Just before we get to the Coburg, they'll kind of be buzzing in your ears. It'll be like you, G, and Luke sitting there and enjoying the proceedings. So we welcome you all, including G and Luke, of course. This is the Coburg climb, Brian. It was a very distinctive climb. They say it's the toughest of the race. I think possibly less so now where it sits, but still going to have an impact, and it's still going to be glorious.
It will. It's a very difficult race. There's a lot of climbs. They come thick and fast. 33 climbs in total. Very hard days of racing. He said just over 3,000 metres of elevation. Everybody thinks that the Netherlands is flat. It is relatively flat, but you've got these constant ups and downs pretty much all day, and it's a wearing course in the end.
Certainly is. So, should we get to it? The Coburg, 600 metres only, but 8.3% as an average. And when you know that the beginning of that run is about 4.1 and it evens out to about 7.7, you're thinking, well, where does 8.3 come from as an average over the full distance? It's a nasty section where it gets up to 13.5%. It used to be an absolute killer at the end of the race. I still think it's going to have a big impact. And in fact, you're going to be looking as to who's here later on when there's 18.5 kilometres to go. That's where this is going to become particularly important, Brian, at the end of today.
100%. It's a wearing down process. It might not be the big kind of mountains, but this race is definitely kind of wearing down, and you really have to kind of save a lot towards the end, because it does kind of kick off in the final kind of 50 kilometres.
Well, some of you heading off for a break, don't forget to check out what's occurring live at Eurosport Cycling. Minute and 9 seconds, only the gap. Now, this was around 4 minutes earlier on today, and they have kind of settled themselves into a roll, but they feel like bait out here, Brian. I kind of feel sorry for them a little bit. Minute and 10 with 84 to go. They've done a lot of work already, and the work may soon be done.
It looks that way anyway, but at least they've got the sponsors out there. Very important. Unibet, a nice entry into this race. The team at the back, the kind of multicolour team. They'll take what they can get, and there's a lot of publicity for a lot of these teams that are in the breakaway. But it's a slow build up. This one, the world champion is here after a fabulous start to the season. He's not raced too much, but what he has raced, he's done rather well. And this is another race that I think he'll be looking to win, especially with that stripy jersey on.
Absolutely magnificent. I mean, what a way to approach the season, and with such dominance as well. Cyclocross is all about, but the fact that he came into Milan San Remo and looked, some said, a little bit undercooked, still got a top 10 finish, and everyone was asking him lots of questions at that point. Then wins the E3, runner-up in Gent-Wevelgem, wins the Ronde van Vlaanderen in emphatic style, and indeed gets Paris-Roubaix as well to his name. Just a phenomena. He won Flanders by a margin of over a minute. He then goes to the Roubaix Velodrome and comes home on his own by 3 minutes. How much is he going to win by today, Brian?
That's the question. I think listening to some of the interviews that we had there, it was a nice bit of teamwork there. Just gesturing to his teammate in front for Alpecin, just I'll have that bottle. This is a lot the work that we see. A lot of riders doing on a camera, that you have to really work for your team leaders while it's getting a bottle. These wee bits it's really required. But yeah, I don't think he has to do much until the final. I think the individual efforts that he did make in Roubaix, and I think he said that was probably the hardest he'd ridden in the Ronde van Vlaanderen come the end. It's hard to make these solo efforts, although he makes it look so easy. But today I think he can afford to sit back. I don't think Van der Poel will be attacking with 50-60 kilometres to go. He can wait for the race to come to him, but very important, as we can see, that you're right towards the front at all times in this race, because you never know any wee incidents. You know, it's tricky with the amount of road furniture in this part of the world, and you really have to stay near the front. And Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, he's got his teammates in front of him, just keeping them there.
This is what it's all about. It's as much about positioning as anything else. Thankfully for the riders, it's slightly less traumatic today, I think, because the wind is quite light. But 33 climbs, no cobblestones, but more than 3,000 metres of altitude gain. But positioning is absolutely key, as Brian is saying, to a good result. We've got narrow, winding roads. You can see that at the moment. So it's a whole sequence of races to the next pivotal moment in the race. And when that happens, you know that you are in moderate trouble if you're not in the right place at the right time. Coburg coming up. Check out this brute. We're on board the Coburg. This will be taken not only now, but also with 18.6 kilometres to go. So kind of bank this view in your mind. That's what the riders are going to be doing. Less than a minute is the breakaway at the moment, with 81.3 kilometres of the day to go. No wonder they're shuffling about on their saddles, wiping their nose and the rest of it. Almost like condemned men, slightly nervous. And the reason is there's a whole load of chargers behind us. 33 climbs today, no cobblestones, but with the altitude gain, of which this is very much part of over 3,000 metres, it means that every single moment you're on thin, winding, sinuous roads. Positioning is absolutely vital, as you can see here. This is a race to get into position, the correct position, to have a clear run at this climb and not get squeezed, not get held back. This is a nightmare. So what it means is we have a whole sequence of action points that you'll have to sprint to on roads that quite often do not open up for you to move by. This is an exception you're looking at the moment. We've got some very, very thin, narrow, sinuous roads that could cause havoc. In the past, we've had a bit of a crash fest. We've already had some bumps and bruises today, hoping that stays away. The troglodytes have just tipped out, as you can see, to come and cheer them through. The Coburg will be coming back with 18.6 kilometres to go. The next climb after this one, they're kind of putting this in the memory banks, will be the Gul Hemmelberg. Now we'll take that again with 14 kilometres to go. We then go over the Kiederberg, and then it'll be the Remmelberg, which is also repeated. The Kiederberg is not. The Remmelberg is our last climb, actually, of the day at 6.9 kilometres to go. So you will see the Remmelberg in a short while. You will also, of course, as you've just witnessed, the Coburg, see this again with 18.6 to go. So this and two of the next three climbs will form part of our finale later on, and it's already starting to cause a fracturing. With 80.6 kilometres to go, you've got to think of a way of out-thinking an extraordinarily strong team with a superstar rider that is Mathieu van der Poel. That's Alpecin Deceuninck. They and Ineos Grenadiers starting as the strongest and perhaps at the forefront of everyone's minds. I think that UAE Team Emirates today with Ayuso, Finn Fisher-Black, Almeida, Hershey, McNulty, Jan Christian, Jord Bax. It's hard to find a weak link within that team. There's so much firepower here, it's going to take us a while. We'd be 15 minutes just giving you the names, quite frankly. So just settle in, see who's where. Personally speaking, my heart would love Michael Matthews to actually put to bed an appalling judging decision against him in a sprint a couple of days ago and come through and have a say in today. But you know what? Favours are nothing you get on a day like this. Sometimes it's all about brutality, and the big monster out there is Mathieu van der Poel, and they've got to figure out a way of beating him, Brian.
Yep, and very few people have done that this year, haven't they? And over the years, but you know, it has happened. Mads Pedersen being one of them in Gent Wevelgem. But I tell you what, Bora Hansgrohe mean business today. They've got a rider in the breakaway in Alexander Hajek. In fact, I've just had a message from Cameron Mason just telling me a little bit about him. He was a teammate at Trinity in 2022 with him. Quiet guy, but a weapon on a bike. Punchy, good on medium mountain climbs, also deadly in a go-kart. Pure racer, good opportunity for him as a Neo Pro to bring a big race. That's a rider in the kind of green lime green at the front. So
deadly
kind of
on a go-kart. That is brilliant. Go on.
Yeah. So, but looking at the front of the peloton, it was actually with a rider in the breakaway. Bob Jungels was starting to, he was the one that was instigating the attack. So it means that, they're out taking a race. They're not going to kind of sit back. They want to make it as hard as possible. And Bob Jungels still persistent at the front. A lot of riders in this race have to be at the front, but they don't want to put their nose in the front. They want to save as much as possible into this final.
Let's see. Always good to see Bob Jungels, Mr. Bojangles. He jumped so high that he lightly touched down. Well, let's see if indeed he does so today. There'll be plenty of others that have some options. A lot being used as foils here. Francis Lejeune coming here with a very strong team. They have Valentin Madouas, of course. Romain Gregoire, though, real punchy. Has a proper bit of pace about him. Sails up climbs like they're just not there. I think he's a great pick today if indeed you've got your money on him. So many favourites within UAE Team Emirates I've just mentioned. Max Schachmann for Bora Hansgrohe, why not? Michael Matthews, would love to see it for Jaco Alula, just to kind of stick it to the commissaires, you might say. Van Heels and Kroms for Lotto Destiny. Peo Bilbao's here for Bahrain Victorious. Ballestella. Velasco, probably the best choice for Alpecin de Koenig. We've spoken to Ben Healy. They've got Richard Carapaz, Marijn van den Berg as well, who you know has got a big kick on him. Likewise, Corbin Strong. He can kick for Israel Premier Tech with Dylan Turns and Steve Williams. Come on, Steve. Alexander Camp for Tudor Pro Cycling. We have Shelmos, one of the big favourites for Lidl Trek. They'll keep themselves quiet and then go punchy at the end with Badgioli and Tom Squinch to help out, or maybe be alternatives. Tace Benoit, Matteo Jorgensen for Visma Lisa Bike. Benoit Cosnefroy, Paul Lipera for Decathlon. Cosnefroy, run-up in 22. Bramage Peel made him very happy, and us too. Kevin Vauquelin from Arkea B&B Hotels. Oscar Onley, why not? Warren Barguil might have to back him up, but I'm hoping that Oscar gets the free pass for them. You get the idea. This is absolutely racked with talent. I don't think I even mentioned Ben Healy, Richard Carapaz and Marijn van den Berg, but I probably did. Tom Pidcock, Kwiatkowski's former winner in the past, of course. Thomas Pidcock, genius at work when things indeed favour him. This race has not been kind to him in the past. You may well remember his runner-up on a photo with Wout van Aert. We all know that Tom Pidcock crossed the line first. Unfortunately, the timing beam was not on the line. Don't even start. It's not a nice thing to even dwell on. Thomas Pidcock is only 24 years of age. He's not even hit his best yet. Shall we hear from him? Thomas Pidcock. Wouldn't it be nice to see Thomas Pidcock, today's winner? Let's find out, shall we, what his thoughts are. Rises and falls still going on, Brian. This is great. In fact, we'll come to Brian after this. Here is Tom, then we'll have Bri.
Tell us, how did you recover? How did your body and your hands recover from Paris-Roubaix?
Pretty well, actually. My hand's still a little bit, cut, but no, it's healed fast. I can't really put pressure on this part, but it's okay. It serves me right for just trying to jump into Roubaix, doesn't it? You know, you can't underestimate that race. But yeah, I mean, physically, I've recovered quite well.
No regret on Roubaix then?
No, it's good experience. It's for sure a race that's, of course the weight will never be in my favour, but yeah, it's a race that I really like.
And today you got a good history with that race. So how do you feel? How will you react to yourself comparing to last editions, and how to play your cards?
Yeah, that's the thing. This race, it could be quite tactical today. There's quite a lot of strong guys. Of course, everyone will be looking at Van der Poel, you know, with a guy with such a track record this year already. So yeah, it could be quite a tactical race in the end, I think.
You think we can have a surprise, because everybody expects Van der Poel going at 50, 60 k's to go? Do you think it could be different, really?
Yeah, we'll see. You never know. You know, maybe he was a big focus was on the two last races. Maybe he's come down a little bit since then, but who knows? Maybe he's still the same. But I think the fact he goes uphill will play into a few of our guys' hands.
And for you, what will be the best scenario?
Well, to win.
And how?
How I don't know. That's that we'll see. There's like I said, we'll see how it plays out first, because you never know other teams' tactics. And then only when you see that, you can then go from there.
Nice to hear such a positive attitude from Thomas Pidcock. So laid back, such a lovely bloke. And of course, well known to both Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas, who are currently on What's Occurring Live. Go and have a look at Eurosport Cycling on Instagram, and you can have a couple of mates commenting along the way. They'll probably be telling you how lousy we are, but They'll be enjoying themselves. Hello, fellas. Brian, great to hear Tom Pidcock just being so relaxed coming into today. That's usually when he's at his most lethal.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from Tom Pidcock, and another race for him to try and win again. He's not going to give anything away when it comes to kind of tactics, and watching it at the moment, there's a few teams. We just saw an acceleration there by Miko Honoré from EF Education Easy Post in the pink, and we've already seen it from Bora Hansgrohe with Bob Youngles. They don't want this scenario of Alpecin Deceuninck just to ride on the front, just ride tempo. They want to make a race of it, and I think one of the words was tactical. We heard from Tom Pidcock there, and I think I'm hoping it does get very kind of tactical in the end, and I think it will. There's a few teams now, EF Education Easy Post and Bora Hansgrohe, are trying to make it tactical, trying to kind of force a group now that the original breakaway. I don't know if they're all just caught at the moment. It was kind of breaking down, handshakes around, so it looked as if it was pretty much all back together again, which sometimes is a strange one with 75 kilometres to go. But we may have a counter-attack in these sort of roads where it's twisting and turning, very technical. One of the most technical courses there are in these type of races. It's fascinating to watch, and it's so great, Carlton, to see so many crowds at the side of the road and still at the bottom of the Coburg. That is just massive.
Big highway race, just about to cede position our breakaway. Tosh van der Sande already doffed his cap, said see you fellas, see you next time by. Powering up the centre of the road here. Omar Freire is stamping on the pedals for Ineos Grenadiers, keeping the pace where it needs to be. Problem is, if you want to grind down Mathieu van der Poel, you kind of feel that he made the pepper pot, for goodness sake. He's a man who is well within his realm when it's difficult. So you can end up just hurting yourself, or indeed your own chances if you do too much work. This is racing into Maastricht. Then, of course, we take on the Kierberg. That's in a few kilometres' time. But as you can see, this land is almost flat. But we do have some rises and falls, and we've had to loop around ourselves on a number of occasions. We have 3 passages of the finish line in total as we begin the final defining loop. That will be indeed once we go over the Coburg again for the final time, I should say, with 18.6 kilometres to go. But we do have a bigger loop to take on in a few moments' time, and in fact we're already in the middle of it with the Bemmelberg coming after the Kierberg still to come. Back to the car, take on as much sustenance as you possibly can. This is Brandon Rivera, just wants to make sure that he's got maybe stocks for himself and indeed others. Because of the pace of it, Brian, it's very, very difficult to take on sustenance. You've got to grab your opportunity.
You do, and one of the kind of key moments coming up, you can see at the front of the peloton, a bit of a kind of rush to get towards the front. A lot of teams pushing and shoving. It's one of these situations, Carlton, in this race. You turn the corner, it goes narrow. We go into a climb. There's so many key points in this race that you have to be up. It's a bit like the Tour of Flanders. Anytime that you relax a little bit, you find yourself towards the back of the peloton, the race could be over. As we see, a lot of teams still interested in trying to get in a kind of move, a counter move after the original breakaways has been brought back. But Ineos Grenadiers, they're here to win, and they're putting Tom Pidcock in the best possible place. Nothing may happen in the next 10 kilometres, but you never know that.
Well, I was saying to myself, I do hope that there's a longer... that it's an even, not one of the sides of the road is longer or shorter than the other. Best place to be was on the left-hand side, quite clearly. Mathieu van der Poel, not too stressed, found himself on the right-hand side of the roads with Ineos Grenadiers, or the main body of them. So who's been very strong this year is Mikko Kwiatkowski for Ineos Grenadiers, winner in 2022, and somebody who could just kind of pull it out of the bag just constantly, it seems. Brandon Rivera's got himself back in. Here's Michael Matthews. Brian, been bullied a bit this year.
Yeah, wasn't it great? This year with, his results, good result in Milan-San Remo. Like you, I don't think he should have been disqualified for the sprint in the Ron van Vlaanderen. Definitely a race that really suits him. Just down the back there with a few of his teammates. But look, spectators riding over the grass, all this sort of stuff. It's just great. This race has a lot of dangers. Okay, we saw an incident in the women's race with a police motorbike involved, we hope everything is okay there. But this race is constantly crazy, lefts and rights, road furniture all over the place, and there's only one place to ride this, and it's near the front to keep out of trouble.
Very much so. A lot of the settlements here are quite tight, and they park their cars on the side of the road. And as a result, narrow roads become even more narrow. It's well policed, I'll give you that, very much so. In fact, it's one of the best organised races there is. The Netherlands want to make a show of it, and indeed they put on a great show every single year. Each time, you just never know whether it's going to be a one-man dominant, as it has been in the past. Pogacar, of course, just showing us the way home last year after three men went off up the road. Can't see it this time. Doesn't matter how strong Mathieu van der Poel is, certainly his schedule. I know he had a bit of a respite before he came to opened his season with Milan San Remo, but Brian, there's got to be a few riders here that believe that they can take the fight to him on this one.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah, well, you
can't come into a race like this and think, well, we've lost already. Mathieu van der Poel's here. You have to believe in it. I think if he's in the final and he stands, he is one of the favourites, of course, but you're hoping, we've already seen it from a couple of teams, just to maybe get a counter-attack, maybe kind of force him to do a little bit more than maybe he needs to do. But his team have been working for him pretty much all day. But he still has to be, and I think at the back of his mind, that he'll want to try and win this one. I know he's won it in the past as the Dutch champion, but as a world champion, that seems to be his inspiration. All these races that he's done this year, the big motivation is to win them, of course, but to win them as a world champion, that's huge.
Just enjoying watching EF Education just manning the pumps, I guess you might say. Far from sinking, they're sailing away. Ben Healy, Richard Carapaz, Marijn van den Berg, they've got three very strong cards to play there, and in fact a lot of backup as well within that team. They're showing their belief, they're showing the duties at the moment within these Grenadiers, and quite a few others. It's mob handed out the front, and I think this is almost a blockage at this point anyway, to give everyone just a chance to regather themselves. They're all in colour order though, you notice, Brian, so they're all expecting to have to be in support of their principles at any time.
Yeah, they're in colour order, looking after their principles. Innes on the right, just to their left. EF Education Easy Post. You can see Groupama in the blue, Lidl Trek up Skelmos. He's riding particularly well at the moment. We saw that in the Tour of the Basque Country. A lot of riders using the Tour of the Basque Country for preparation for these three races coming up: Amstel, Flèche Wallonne, and Liège, Bastogne Liège. So, let's see what form they've got coming into this race.
This is characteristic of the race. Look at the bollards everywhere, and of course the sudden pinching in here of the paving as well. It causes a lack of fluidity within the pack, and you just get riders into riders almost as a constant here. Some survive it, of course, each and every one of those little skirmishes. As Kenton Emmons gets himself back on, more out of embarrassment than anything else. He was just caught up in a snag. And it's the sort of thing that can happen at any time in this race, Brian. You've got to be careful, which is why there's a battle to be up front.
100%, it's common measures. And the thing is, Carlton, in the peloton, you can hear it a little bit with the cars, the helicopters above, the motorbikes, all that sort of stuff. It's quite noisy. So you're just kind of riding along here, noisy, spectators, just narrows down. And when that came in there, just hit the curb and down you go.
Little bit of a nip. Where the road just changed to accommodate a central island there. Obviously part of a pedestrian sort of waiting zone, if you will. Not officially a zebra crossing as we would know, but nonetheless, just caught out here with a bump. Kenton Hermans, also Incorn, Pascal Incorn from, here he is, just coming through from Lotto Destiny. They get themselves back in, but it's proof positive that strange things can happen in this race because of so many pinch points. They're just trying to get the cars into line so these guys can get through. But again, it's the twists and turns, and they constant racing, almost a sprint, if you will, between the changes of direction, the changes of road style, some highways, some very, very thin, sinuous tracks that we'll be dealing with, into and out of the woodland area. You see all the parked cars here, and the fans as well have made encroachments onto a little kind of traffic island, some of which are grass, some of which are not. Very inviting, and why would you not? It's very, very well attended, this race, Brian, because it is of its circular nature. These loops, they draw out a good spectacle for the fans, and as a result we get a well-populated roadside here to witness the riders coming by on numerous occasions on a loop.
When it used to start and finish in Maastricht, sometimes it came down to, more predominantly, it came down to a sprint final. Now, you know, the recent incarnation of it, you know, we can have a sprint as well. You know, we've had individual performances in the past, really exciting finals, but I think in between those, when we used to finish at the top of the Coburg, you know, it's predominantly the kind of climbers that had their, you know, kind of punchy climbers that had the kind of field day. Riders, you know, looking at Liège, Bastogne-Liège and Flèche Wallonne, those type of riders. But I think we've got a real mix of riders that can do really well in this course. But, you know, it's renowned for being chaos, this race. You know, we know that, you know, in the Netherlands, you know, any races here, there's a lot of kind of calming measures, a lot of hidden dangers on the road. We're already kind of seeing that. So you have to be at the front. You know, this kind of wearing down process, you have to have riders round about you to look after you. I rode this race for my team captain. Pretty much I used to ride on his back wheel, just making sure that you know, he was safe enough, follow him in the climb, and over the top of the climb, that's where my job came in, where it kind of opens out. A lot of the climbs here, they don't exactly kind of go up and then down again. They kind of open up. So when you go up a climb, it kind of opens up at the top, and then sometimes you can get a lot of kind of cross winds. So you just nip in front of them, make sure that you know, you keep them out the wind. But it's constant, absolutely constant, ups, downs, lefts, rights on these kind of small climbs, and it's just saps your energy, and also the concentration. You know, this race, you know, 5-6 hours. But it goes by in a flash, because, you know, it's constantly, you know, on and off the brakes, you know, moving up, and, you know, before you know it, you know, we're into the last kind of lap of the race, which is 16 kilometres in length.
Fabio Follini just making an exchange here. He did a good drive into this climb, showing that Lidl Trek will be looking for Shelmos, Baggioli and Squinch, who's also having a very good season. Tom Squinch has really dialed back his efficacy, I think. He's refound his form, is what I'm trying to say, in a more sensible manner. Meanwhile, downstairs, those who took themselves a bump, this is the problem, Brian. You get yourself into any kind of difficulty, you've got to make your way back on while everyone else is powering away and trying to deal with obstacles that you find yourself disengaged and having more of a job to indeed navigate.
Yeah, you can't really kind of panic too much when you have a wee incident like that. It's very important that, you know, you don't steam by the cars and get on. You kind of use the cars and, you know, leapfrog them and try and save a little bit of energy in the cars to get up. But like we saw before on the main road, maybe 5-6 kilometres ago, Carlton, when there was a lot of teams bringing their principal rider up towards the front. And I think I said at the time, you never know if something's going to happen, but if you're not there and it does happen, then you're kicking yourself. But sometimes this happens in many races, that you make the effort, you bring your team captain up towards the front, and nothing happens for 10 kilometres. That's the type of race this is. You never know when it's going to happen.
You never do. This is Simon Clark, just in wheel 2 for Israel Premetech here. Just on the right-hand side of the road. Super strong rider. And yes, somebody else who's found himself with a gift of a contract with Israel Premetech, but has really lived up to the billing. When he didn't have a contract, was busy keeping himself absolutely where he needed to be form-wise. And just following on from great Jake Stewart here, Israel Premetech come with a very quietly, extraordinarily strong and effective team. Dylan Turns, Steve Williams, who we know all about, and Corbin Strong as well. Jakob Fuglsang, Chris Nylands. As soon as you say the names, you're starting to fizz here, thinking, well, yeah, they've got plenty of options, which is great, but always looming are the rainbow stripes. World champ here, he's just not letting anything out of his sight, Brian. he's not even relying on his teammates overly at the moment. He is quite often just being part of other people's moves and just making sure he's out of the wind, but where he needs to be at all times. Clever.
It's a little bit easier to kind of spot him in the peloton, isn't it? All kind of dressed in white. But, you know, he did have his team riding at the front, and you have to say over the last few races, the Cobble Classics, they have ridden tremendously for him. And maybe it's a little bit easier when you've got someone like Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, to ride for, and he gets that success. But, you know, the team have really kind of gelled well together. And done rather well. Whether he, you know, goes on to win this race today, I think there's a lot of riders, and you've mentioned them already. So many talented bike riders. It's very difficult to pick up an out-and-out, you know, winner, because we've got so many. You know, we covered the Tour of the Basque Country, and a lot of the riders that are here rode that race, and you know, that was a good preparation race for them. But Lidl Trek, with the red helmets on, they really believe in Skelmos today. But Alpecin Deceuninck, always near the fronts. A lot of riders coming up left and right, always having to be there. And that's the kind of nervous nature of this race.
Certainly is. Intermarché want to getting involved here. Lorenzo Rota, probably their best bet for today, you'd think. Most recently in the Basque Country, he was possibly not where he'd want to be, but you know, they've got the young Francesco Buzzato that everyone, including us, is raving about. And how's about this for a pinch? This is why they were racing for, to get themselves in a good position for this descent. Well, they've gone over the Bemmelberg, and now we've got possibly the longest distance that we'll have to wait until we get to the Keutenberg with 30 k's to go. That will be a reach of 12 kilometres before we reach the peak of the Coburg. But nonetheless, flatter section you might think, but they're coming off a plateau here, so wherever you have climbs, you have descents. And it seems a strange one, really, in the Netherlands, that the terrain is offering us up this kind of riding. It's an exceptional area within, indeed, the Netherlands. And they're kicking off again, one after the other. 62.6 kilometres. This is where riders are going to start thinking about the possibility of shaking up proceedings. And that's what we're seeing, Brian. A gamble by 3. An invitee, yeah, they're looking over their shoulders just to see who might not only be following them, but indeed who they'd want to be on board. It's a filtering process, Brian. It started.
Well, this is the third team. It started. We already saw Bora Hansgrohe with Bob Jongos, Michael Honoré with the EF Education Easy Post, and now we see Soudal Quickstep, you know, get involved here. British rider just at the back. Groupama going across here. Alpecin Deceuninck straight to the front. They don't want anything like this because, you know, this is the danger. You know, the tactical elements, you know, a counter-attack goes, they miss it, they're forced to kind of chase it a little bit, and, you know, now we're seeing the tactics of some of these teams starting to play out now.
It's the least expensive rider out there, Pacher, who just comes onto the back of this now quartet, with him joining it, but as you can see, Alpecin, as Brian was saying, they're on policing duties. And this is all for the world champ, who you can see just sitting, what, in about a wheel 10, I would say, behind this quartet. Something like that, with 61.7 kilometres to go. It's action-packed, Brian, and these 61Ks are going to go very, very quickly, despite the climbs.
It does go rather quick, this race. Yeah. Loer Vavaka was the rider from Soudal Quickstep that was on the attack there, and you know, the damage can be done, but most of the damage is done at the back. You know, so you really want to ride on the front, but you know, since we've been commentating over the last kind of half hour, that's 3 teams that are kind of really, you know, looking to get this kind of counter-attack going, and hopefully, you know, Alpecin Deceuninck aren't involved. But I would say take one of them. If you take one of them, then, you know, they're not going to chase. So, yeah, it is a conundrum how you're going to beat Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion. Well, one thing is for sure, there's a few teams trying to do it, a few teams trying to create this small group off the front again. Nobody, you know, you get to what, 61 kilometres to go, Carlton, there's no breakaway, it's all together, everybody's riding there, it's all very nervous, a lot of riders, you know, doing their job, a few riders starting to attack. It's fascinating to watch. You know, it's a kind of slow build-up to what I think will be an exciting final.
Mark Hirschi's got himself up, just taking a gel at the moment for UE Team Emirates. Somebody that's kind of gone off the radar just a little bit, but is now starting to beep again, I think you might say. Mark Hirschi was super dominant force a couple of seasons ago. and he's refining himself, the Swiss. I don't know whether it's very much in the service of others or whether he might be allowed to help himself. I mean, with Almeida, Finn Fisher-Black, Ayuso, Brandon McNulty as probably better options, you'd say. But you never know quite when a rider's going to wake up. And, you know, on a day like this, such a long day, you can even find yourself not really fancying it at the beginning of the day, and then all of a sudden, Brian, you're in the right place and feeling like it's your time, even within the day.
Mark Hirschi might not be where he was a couple of years ago when he was absolutely fabulous. He's in the centre of the picture, the Swiss champion, an incredible bike rider. But he just kind of hasn't hit these kind of heights since. He's been there and thereabouts. He's had some decent success, but you know, what we were talking about a couple of years ago, and you know, the world was his oyster at that moment in time. But he's kind of stalled a little bit in form. I'm pretty sure he'll get back there at some point, but. Yeah, it's clear from the footage that we're seeing at the moment that everybody wants to be at the front, and of course, you know, it's always difficult to be at the front, and you need help to be there.
Well, you know what? If we have Dutch raiding parties like Visma Lease Bike coming and bossing, indeed, the winning roster, there are teams, of course, that won't like that one little bit, and one of those, of course, is Soudal Quickstep. They've had a rough old time of things, possibly some of it self-inflicted, I must say, the Belgian squad. Of course, they're arch rivals of Visma Lease Bike, and they will always want to make a noise. And that's what you're seeing right now. And it's good to see that these three teams, this is strength across that trio, because they've got very, very strong riders who indeed could do something from behind as well. Let's see. It will allow, as Brian was saying, their teammates just to rest up ever so slightly. Meanwhile, looking back down this roster, it's a question of who's going to make the move. Jakob Fuglsang's been, the name means birdsong, is absolutely where he needs to be on a number of occasions. And in fact, Israel Premier Tech have actually had a few loud calls at the front. 58.8 kilometres to go. If you'd like to have a chat with both Brian and myself, then please feel free to do so. We're both on Twitter. It's at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or at Bry Smithy, BRISMITHY. If you're on Instagram, don't forget, at Eurosport Cycling have got What's Occurring. And our guests today, so you can turn them on your portable device, and share the conversation with Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas, who are along for the ride today as part of Eurosport Cycling on Instagram. Go and check it out. You'll find a link on YouTube as well. So it's a busy time of things, and it's been incredibly busy. What's the pace been today, Brian? I haven't got an average speed. Have you found one?
Just slightly under 42 kilometres an hour, but this is a quality group now.
It is.
Mikko Honoré's already tried, Vervaca's already tried as well. Now they find themselves with Paul Lapera from Decathlon. He's done rather well in recent weeks. It's another rider, which you're talking about Mark Hirschi there, Mikko Honoré. It was only 2 or 3 years ago that Honoré was, you know, he used to ride for the Quick Step team. Quality bike rider, switched over to EF Education Easy Post and hasn't been kind of the same rider since. But, you know, good to see him at the pointy end, and 3 quality riders. And you can see why, you know, the pace isn't slowing, because, you know, like I was saying, Honoré, Vervaca, you know, Paul Lapera, they've all shown reasonable good form coming into this race.
Look at this streak. There's Van der Poel just moving up, pushing 20, 15, 10. He knows, and he's once again he's guiding his own teammates up. So come on, fellas, let's just drift up to the front here, and then you can take over the duty that I've invoked here. Axel Arance was the man who was already pacing up front, or was it Zandro Maurice actually? Oh, well, clever stuff by Van der Poel, knowing that this was a bit pinchy, and it's I'm afraid bitten a few yet again. Not what we want to see at all. Russo just into the privet. Also here and is Carlos Canal. It's just from Movistar, just busy trying to get himself sorted out, chained back on. He's a quick man, a quick option for them. Alex Aramburu will be their best hope today, I think, for Movistar. They've been quite anonymous, to be honest, so far, but sometimes that can be a good thing. This is a bad thing, Brian, but it's a character of the race.
Yeah, just moving up on the right hand side there, just the squeeze. That's as simple as that. You know, not enough road space, and just somebody moving from the left-hand side, moves everybody to the right, nobody wants to give an inch, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the grass at the right-hand side there.
That instinctive move, we saw Van der Poel moving up, Brian, knew that it was going to get slightly narrow at that moment. If you have a forensic knowledge of this course, it's going to help, isn't it?
It is, but it's very difficult. I had Henny Kuiper in my ear the whole time, and it's constant, information, because in a lot of races these riders want this information in their ears. But I'll tell you what, the ears will be red hot throughout this whole race.
Round again, I think you might say. Well, my grandfather used to scream at my beloved mother when she was trapped on a motorcycle going around the local square in Knotty Ash a long time ago. 12 round again. 12 seconds only, marginal, but you know what, sometimes these things magnify, and every journey starts with the first step, and maybe they've taken one here. Let's see. 55.8 kilometers from home. Looks like beautiful roads here, of course, which is very much the character of the Netherlands. Never seen a bad road in the Netherlands, full stop. It's just a magnificent country. And down here, where it rises and falls a little bit, kind of uncharacteristic. You saw the big earthenworks there. That's porcelain clay, where your Delft pottery comes from. Brian often spends his weekends just painting a bit of the old blue, as he says, before firing up a nice teacup to hand out to his mates. 55.3 kilometers from home. He's looking like what on earth are you going on about? Brian, if you're not into earthenware and pottery, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. 16 seconds is the gap. Looks like they're prepared to let these guys have a little bit of a leash here, Brian.
Yeah, they're not investing too much as they were earlier. That's Alpecin Deconic in the double denim, and Lido Trek as well. They've been doing a lot of work since we've been live on air, but yeah, just slowing ever so slightly. Visma Lisa bike in the yellow coming up towards the front. So I would assume with a slight slow in the peloton, this gap will increase a little bit. Like I was saying, Soudal quick step with Louis Vervaeke. Paul Lapera, who's been terrific, hasn't he, in recent weeks. Brilliant. For decathlon and that kind of Galaxy multicoloured decathlon kit in the pink. Mikko Honore of EF Education Easy Post. So 3 strong riders, only 3 teams involved, but Honore, this is the second time he's tried. Vervaeke tried quick in succession. Bora Hansgrohe kind of missed this one. They were really kind of interested in getting in this breakaway. So let's see what happens. For the moment anyway, the gap increasing to 21 seconds.
It is. You could see the sense of the peloton not exactly fully committed to chasing this down. Can't chase everything down, but suddenly something's going to stick. Just coming through to the Luurberg. That's our next climb. We'll be peaking out with 51.3 kilometers to go. It's not too much of a test. And again, the roads here are not cobbled. They're laid to asphalt. But you can see the drive to get into this one yet again. Well, it's a familiar look, I guess, colour-wise, to the front of the pack, just for the time being. Great to see as well that Irish champion is getting himself up to the fore. Ben Healy came close last time by. I'd love to see him go again today. It's busy. Constantly it is as we race towards each of these action points, but it's more than just the climbs themselves, it's the turns to them and indeed the street furniture as well. And look at how this road is now narrowing down. It's almost like it's taking us to a single file. We're, what were we, 10 wide? You see Van der Poel there just on the left-hand side of the road, so right as you're looking at it at the moment. A little gap in the centre, and Israel Premier Tech say thank you very much, we'll come up here, but it's a pinch. Look at this. We've had so many touches of wheels, and that's the turn they were worried about, with street furniture in the middle, and instinctively some know about it. They'll have a better sense of it as we head towards the Coburg, and so crash is possibly becoming less likely. When does a strong rider launch, Brian?
A strong rider? Well, nowadays it's anywhere between 81 kilometres to go in the finish. Pogacar launching his Strade Bianche from that distance, but I don't think this is the same type of race where you kind of want to kind of launch early. Still a lot of riders involved here. There's still a lot of riders, of course, to kind of chase you down. You can see what Alpecin Deceuninck did, even before we had that new chicane at the Arnberg Forest, that, we only had about 30 riders in front by then, but we have got most of the peloton. We're getting very close to 50 kilometres to go. And when you've got the size of peloton, you've got plenty of teammates, so I wouldn't think we'd see much launching at the moment. It will be more a case of trying to get riders up the road, trying to get riders in that kind of counter-attack, rather than one of the favourites launching from here, because I think with the amount of teammates left from a lot of the teams, it's a lot easier to chase them back.
She's still on duty, just tucked in here. Looking, Ben Healy's in fourth wheel, just coming through, being guided through. He really showed an enormous amount of stamina last year, the Irish champion, with the green helmet on the left-hand side of your screen. Last year wasn't to be for him, but sometimes you turn disappointment into something very special. It'd be lovely if that was the case. So here we are on our next little incline here. I mean, this is almost alpine, I guess you might say, as far as the Netherlands are concerned. And meanwhile, back out to the head of the race, we have Honoré here as we come up the Lureberg, maximum of 8.4%. Vavajka is also up here for Soudal Quick-Step. You're looking at him right now. Louis Vavajka getting to veteran status now, I guess you might say, at 30 years of age. Won the Ronde d'Isard a few years ago, and that was an eye-opener for everybody. And ever since then, he's essentially been a lotto man, and indeed has a little bit of time at Soudal, at Team Sunweb, I beg your pardon, at Alpecin Fenix, before crossing back over the Rubicon. Ineos getting lively, as you can see, and Swedish champion also up towards the fore for Tudor Pro Cycling is Lucas Eriksson, an eternal presence. It's hard to quantify today just how difficult this is, but 50 kilometres remaining. We've done basically well over 200 already. Fatigue is going to be a major factor here as Tom Pidcock gets guided up, Brian.
You still have to remain patient. Pidcock getting looked after just in the left by former winner Kwiatkowski and Ben Turner, but the size of the group now that we've got, still significant. You look at all the other kind of big races this year, and significantly less riders involved come the final, but we are 50 kilometres to go. You have to remain patient. I just want to take this moment to just give a wee shout out, because in this part of the world, a certain Peter Post used to run a very well drilled team in the TI Rally, and Peter Post, the TI Rally, was quite dominant way back in the kind of 70s era, 60s and things like that. So 50th anniversary, I know there's a lot of kind of ex-rally riders. They've met up near Nottinghamshire, where Raleigh was from Nottingham. They've met up in Workshop, watching the race today. But they've come together for the 50th anniversary to honour Peter Post and his TI Rally team. So any riders that have ridden for Raleigh in the past, talking about Scottish rider Billy Bilsland, Dave Lloyd, Malcolm Elliott, Phil Baton, to name just a few, Sid Barris and these guys, they're all kind of meeting up, enjoying the day and tipping the hat towards Peter Post.
Well, we've got two Welshmen looking in today, Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas. They're on What's Occurring, which is partnered for this race with Eurosport Cycling. It's an Instagram Live, so go and check out at Eurosport Cycling. They will be screaming at the screen because the Aberystwyth, don't know what to nickname him, to be honest, but Steve Williams is your man, and he's very much hovering towards the front. Took the Tour Down Under, of course, and was spectacular in the Arctic race of Norway. I was there. It was very, very cold, and indeed the temperatures are just starting to change right now. We've got bad weather coming in. I think we're going to finish this race dry. If it does get wet, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. It's rolling in from the north, so those of you watching in Scotland, by the way, I'm doing a one-man show on the 4th of June in Glasgow. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll give you more details. It's a national tour before the Tour de France. It's at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby. And look forward to your company. 49.1 kilometres, Carlisle, Exeter, Worcester, a few other places. It's all going to be fun, as is this. Look at this terrain. It's it looks like there's something lumpy under the pancake, and it's this area, Brian, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, just showing the significance here. We come up that last climb there, and over the top, it doesn't exactly go down. How it kind of opens up, and the wind does blow. So very important to kind of look after your team principal rider, keep them sheltered. So yeah, a lot of hard work done by a lot of riders, but. Looking at the size of the peloton at the moment, we just mentioned it's significant in size, but in about 20 kilometres time, it could be kind of half this size. But still a good effort here. But only 3 riders. It's not big enough, this group. But hopefully, it will kind of set the catalyst for other riders to try and come across.
Christian Francis says the appalling Carlton Kirby. That's me apparently. Has just called the Eurosport, the Amstel Gold Race cycle fans, troglodytes. Troglodyte is a cave dweller, and the bar that we passed by, part of it is in a cave. That was the reason, Chris. Calm yourself down. Here we go. Chris is not happy. 47.8. Maybe you should have looked up what troglodyte means. I don't know. Should we hear from Schelmos? One of today's principles, potentially. Let's see.
Matthias, how are you? How did you recover from Basque Country?
No, I'm good. I had a good recovery, had a nice relaxation, and I feel good now.
And what is your place of the Amstel into your goals?
No, I mean, it's the last 3 races of the last part of the season, and it was my main goal of the first part, so I'm really looking forward to this.
And how will you imagine yourself winning it? In which kind of scenario?
What again?
And how you will imagine yourself winning it? Which kind of scenario do you need to
I think I need to go alone. That's the biggest chance I have, and especially with Mathieu on the start line, and we will see how it unfolds.
It's possible to beat Mathieu today. We have seen him flying in the last races. This one is a bit different, though.
I mean, it's going to be super difficult. Mads did it in Ghent, and that gives me hope.
Thank you, Matthias. We hope you the best. Thank you.
Gives us hope as well that this is not just going to be a one-man parade with Mathieu van der Poel coming through to take it. So far, he's been absolutely faultless. Van der Poel, I'm talking about, moving himself up at exactly the right time. I imagine that this race has been scoped brilliantly by a team who are kind of on a raiding mission, I guess, a Belgian team, you might say, coming over here. But, of course, they have the ultimate Dutchman in Mathieu van der Poel. Sometimes when he is super efficient, which of course he is most of the time in Belgium, a few boos have echoed from the crowds, from nutcases. But here, very much at home, the expectations are incredibly high in the Dutch press. And let's see if he brings it in, Brian. He's the obvious choice, but it's no certainty.
No, not at all. But it's hard to argue that he is the the rider to beat today. I think your interviewer there, asking the same question to pretty much all the other favourites today, and rightly so. How are you going to beat him? But still in the game, there's a lot of riders here, large bunch. Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, is being looked after towards the front, and this is suiting him. It's not a case of going from distance, which at this stage in Paris-Roubaix, he was already a minute or 2 minutes up the road. So it's a case of kind of being patient, but we all know how well this kind of finish suits Mathieu van der Poel, and I think from Schelmos there, Lido Trek have been doing a little riding. I don't think it's riding to bring anybody back. It's a case of keeping Schelmos towards the front. That's why they're riding at the front. This gap isn't going out too much. It's not because the peloton are chasing. It's a more of a case of make sure that you have your principal rider towards the front. And since we've been commentating over the last hour or so, Carlton, it's the same riders, it's the same principal riders. The workload of the team is huge in a race like this, constantly riding in the wind to keep your teammate towards the front, and it's so important in a race like this.
gorgeous part of the world. This, I believe, is a seminary. So, just about be time for afternoon vespers, as far as I know. That's not scooter racing. It's call to prayer. Who's going to be saying theirs today? 23 seconds only is the gap. They've been held steady here with 44.1 to go. Where do you think the action point, the main launch point will be? Is it going to be as late as the Coburg with 18.6 to go, Brian? It's sort of feeling that way. There's a lot of strength left in the pack, it seems.
I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be the Coburg. I think it's just going to be maybe about 10-15 kilometres before then. I think the Coburg will feature well in this race, but I think it's just 2 or 3 climbs before the Coburg is normally that's where the race is really kind of split to pieces.
Well, Kwiatkowski is bait, and it's been taken by Mathieu van der Poel here. The Gulpenbergweg and Mathieu van der Poel. Well, is it now? We've just been speculating, while some of you perhaps have been away. When will Van der Poel, or indeed anybody else, go for it? Kwiatkowski comes off the front. Former world champion, joined by the current world champion, and they're just rocking and rolling. The Danish champion also up here. We've just heard from him a few moments ago. This is grading of the grains, you might say. Tom Pidcock's also very much in the frame. Hershey remaining attentive. Ben Healy, who went so well last year, is also here. Brian, a first look-see.
Yeah, a lot of them there, as you said. Pidcock, Hershey, Mathieu van der Poel, Healy. They're all kind of looking at it. Still slightly early. I think it's going to be, closer to maybe in about 10 kilometres time is the time that we might see some of the favourites, sparked into action. But for the moment, it was just a case of following. The thing with Mathieu van der Poel there with Kwiatkowski. Nobody from Ineos is going down the road today. This is what happens in the team meeting. There's certain teams not allowed to get in a breakaway. Anything happens, close it down. Kwiatkowski, such an intelligent bike rider, quality to have by your side, and Tom Pidcock has him.
Finn Fisher-Black just making his way up here as well. A few others likewise. Fred Wright has made a move up here for Bahrain. Great to see. Michael Matthews, tandem, lovely as he is, centre of the road. Oh dear. He also waiting to do his thing. Let's see. I hope he does. That would be magnificent. Put behind him some of the disappointments that he's had, especially in Flanders this season. He's been on stellar form. It's almost a dial back. Says he's fallen back in love with cycling, which is just magnificent. And the Jean Nielsen Memorial with bikes propped against it, and that's what, of course, would have wanted. 13 seconds is the gap. 42.4 kilometres from home. A little bit of a rough road, gravelly road as well. Often the dust at the side of the road can almost be as dangerous as ice itself. So just don't get too close to it if you're trying to iron out the apex of these corners. It can be a bit skittly, let's put it that way. So the Gulpenbergweg we have dealt with. Next up we have the Kreuzberg. Another proper test, Brian. Here we are, 2.9 kilometres. Then those are the climbs still to come. And we'll be back to the Kuttenberg in a short while after the Fromberg and the Uiterborgsweg. It's all feeling very familiar, Brian, but sometimes approached from different ways. Doesn't make it any easier. Yeah,
it's starting to kind of, get warmer at the front of the peloton. The principal riders are there. Most of the riders, in the teams have done a lot of work today, but it's a case of it's just starting to simmer at the moment. And I think in the next 10 kilometres we're going to see, some of the riders that we've been talking about, maybe a kind of Ben Healy move, something. With Honoré here, it would be good to get kind of Ben Healy up here and go from a bit of distance. But I just want to pick you up on something, Carlton. You can't stay stellar form in this race. It has to be Amstel form. Like that. There's the Amstel tent as well here, which they're very giving. That's all I'm saying. That's a good times here. 41 kilometres, 29 seconds is the gap, but look at this.
This now has a bit more purpose about it. There's half a minute, it's just starting to be paired back, as you can see. The hares will have sight of the hounds if they look behind them. It's not a huge margin, but sometimes these things get magnified. So, who's your pick for today, Brian? Are you going to just stick with the obvious?
Well, if I had to pick the rider I think is going to win today is Mathieu van der Poel, 100%. But I think we could look kind of beyond that.
Well, go on then.
Well, you have to think Cosnefroid, good win in the week, and he's a rider that's done well in this race over the years.
Do you know who I'm going to bid for today? Because I just love to see it. Is Juan Ayuso, wearing number 1 for UAE Team Emirates. They've sent a powerhouse team here, and they've kept themselves reasonably quiet so far. In fact, I haven't seen him for a little while.
Exactly. We've only seen Hershey from that team.
Yes, exactly. So I'm actually hoping that this is his day. The Charolais and the Belgian Blue just coming out. What's blue about the Belgian Blue? I don't know. Just coming over to say hello, which is nice. They'll walk over to the other side of the field and then see him on the other side in a few moments' time. 40 kilometres from home, and this is where it starts to get very edgy. We're coming into Waalwille, and that means the Kreuzberg is approaching, Brian, and that is a proper launch pad.
It is. Whether riders will use it, I think they may. I think this might be the climb that instigates something, but for the moment it's just a battle for position, and 3 riders still kind of hanging on. Just give them another name shout if you're just joining us. Mikko Honoré of EF Education Easy Post for Blue Vivaca of Soudal Quickstep, and Paul Lepera from Decathlon. And Lepera of the 3 has been very successful over the last kind of few weeks with wins, and a rider definitely on form. So let's see what happens. I'd said that Cosnefroid one of the favourites, and Lepera being up here, very important.
Oh, that was it. I was actually, whenever we go to a slow-mo, I'm always worried. It was a back wheel twitch by Vivaca there, Brian. We were talking about dust on the road. It's been dry here for quite a number of days, and it can be an issue. You just saw it then.
Yeah, well, when you see a spectator running across the road, you kind of snatch at the brakes. So I think that was the reason why that happened. But yeah, we're getting very close now to what could be, kind of very narrow. Could be the catalyst that sparks proceedings off in the next 39 kilometres. And in fact, I hope it does, because this is very narrow, very steep. And this gap only 18 seconds, but you can see the world champion already up there. But I think this could be the catalyst for others to try and take advantage.
Ipera, I think, is possibly a little bit of a worry, which may well have actually garnered this response. And Mathieu van der Poel himself has called for a little bit of pace. Just make sure he's in a safe place for the time being, but you just feel like he's powder keg waiting to go off. Let's see. Ipera, he's disappointed on the Indurain, but he can climb and he can sprint most certainly. Basque Country had its difficulties for everybody, and look at Michael Matthews just bouncing up here. Williams as well, getting himself into a very good place. Likewise, that's always a joy to see. And still Hershey only from UAE Team Emirates. There we are. Well, this is good to see, Brian.
Yeah, if you're Mark Hershey, we're just coming back here, and another rider, McNulty, just a little bit further down, but you're just leading on to that was Søren Kragh Andersen. Quinten Hermans at the front there for Alpecin. He's been on the deck, but he's got a duty to do. Then you see Michael Matthews there, just behind him, Dylan Towns, who rode well in the week in Brabant Spiel as well. So Skelmos still there. Bilbao over towards the left-hand side, so there's a lot of kind of principal riders. Just saw a sneaky peek of Tom Pidcock sitting about 10th, 12th place, but for the moment this could have been the catalyst, but everybody's sitting waiting. It's patience today, it seems like, in this race.
Well, only 600 metres, but at 8.5%. You saw the grind, and it was the challenge to dust, I think, because of Mathieu van der Poel's wariness of what's gone on. Max Schachmann back here, something of a surprise, but it could just have been a squeeze to get onto it. But some gaps opening up here, Brian, and fatigue starting to show. No surprise.
Schachmann is a surprise for me as well, because he rode rather well in the Itzulia to the Basque Country. He was up there the last few stages, so yeah, a bit of a surprise. Maybe he's not been 100% health this week.
Well, they are just starting to stretch their legs now. I think we've had a sifting process, and right now it looks to me like the sort of leading sort of 20 or 30 riders have made a couple of statements. We've had a few splits. They've regathered, only modest, you understand, over the climbs, but it's a taste of things to come. Only 15 seconds for our breakaway. My pair himself, probably the best of these guys, I would have said, but he had good climbing in La Guelia and Drôme, so he knows how to take on and these climbs, and indeed they're short and sharp at the moment. I mean, even back in his heyday, the likes of Freire or indeed Freire and indeed a few others as well could have actually had some fun on this kind of circuit. Kwiatkowski's already shown what he's got as well today in support of Tom Pidcock, who's looking very well protected by indeed those guys. Here's the IJsselmeerveg. Just getting a visual on this as the pack come round, and guess who's absolutely on the nose, Brian? He's where he needs to be.
Yeah, Quinten Hermans looking after him, doing the faithful duty. A lot of this happening. Cosnefroid just a little bit further back. Tom Pidcock is up there, Teichmann out of the Visma bike. You can also see Jorgensen over on the right-hand side. So, a lot of the riders that have got good form at the moment are there at the front, but for the moment, they're quite content in just being there. They're not kind of stretching out. These climbs just come thick and fast. And already at the front, we've got one rider just starting to get distanced.
10 seconds only. Yeah, there's a few big names, Brian, who find themselves tagged today. Chelmos we've just seen as well. Our breakaway itself just starting to disintegrate very gently. As you can see, I don't think that Vervaeke was possibly the man for today. But look at this incline. You can see how tough this is. In terms of percentage, short but very, very sharp. Crowd being very respectful for the time being as they just bounce their way up, and Mathieu van der Poel looks absolutely lethal. Scaroni is in a good place, for Astana Kazakhstan. I think he's the man for the men in the pale blue of the Kazakhstani flag. Still a grind, Brian. This is the IJsselmeerveg, a proper question mark that's being asked here. This is fantastic.
Well, it's up above 17%. That's these tests in quick succession really start to burn the legs.
The IJsselmeerveg has been taken and given a lot of respect. All of the greats who are here, and it looks like a change of pace as well. And Mathieu van der Poel has called for this. Here you go. Well, he's driving on to a wheel here from EF Education Easy Post, and the reason he's doing so is because he's giving a great deal of respect to Richard Carapaz, who checks over his shoulder. But look who's also along for the ride. Ben Healy, his teammate, the Irish champion, in fourth wheel as he makes the exchange. He'll drop in just behind to try and offer up something. Just been over the IJsselmeerveg while some of you have been away. And with ramps of 17%, it's over a kilometre in length, 8.1% as an average, but a real stinger. And as you can see, it's actually accounted for quite a few. Michael Matthews has very much stayed in touch. And I'm starting to think I might actually doff my cap to Michael Matthews and back him for today as the main opposition to Mathieu van der Poel. He's angry enough, and that I like. Looking back through this group, Brian, there's some quality riders up towards the front, as you'd expect. And here we go, starting to kick off, and it's Mark Hirschi once again. Draws out a big response. Roger Adria is the man that tries to mark him out. Valentin Madouas is setting off in hot pursuit, the French champion. It's another quartet. When does this get worrying, Brian? If this forms as a sextet, that's a handy group.
No, it's not worrying at the moment, but it depends on what teammates that Mathieu van der Poel has got there. But, you know, a good move there, and, you know, obviously there are some risks there when you go down the right-hand gutter there and trying to kind of squeeze past. But, you know, something had to happen. Richard Carapaz was one of the riders that tried to instigate it. They've got a rider in front, good to try and kind of make it two, but it's a smaller group now. In quick succession, we had two very kind of hard, kind of steep climbs. Now it's starting to get tactical. Now it looks like Mathieu van der Poel doesn't have the same amount of riders left. And when riders like kind of Jorgensen and that go down the roads, Krohn, that's when it gets very dangerous, Carlton.
Certainly does. Both of these two incredibly effective, just relaying themselves. That looks like Van der Poel as we just lose pictures screened by the hedgerow here. It has started. Jorgensen, Krohn, I think someone like Mathieu van der Poel has to pick who his compadres in a break might be to a move. He's psychologically, he's got an advantage over just about everyone, Brian. So it's worth marking out and maybe being part of a scenario, even if you're without your teammates. Just get on with it and do that job. This is not Van der Poel who's bridging over at the moment. It's Bahrain Victorious. They've got Pello Bilbao. Wouldn't be surprised to see if indeed it is he. Wait and see in a few months' time. I think so too.
It is. We come down this main road here, and then we swing right up another climb, a little bit longer climb, maybe not as steep, but it is starting to kick off. It does look as if Mathieu van der Poel has got less teammates left. They've done a tremendous amount of work today, but it's starting to get very, very tactical now.
Just look at who's rolling off behind Hirschi, Adria, Mollema and Madouas, and they're going to have company. And lots of it by the looks of things. There's Mathieu van der Poel still not being tempted by the group that have gone up the road just for now, but twos and threes and fours, they could all collect together as very much a fighting force. Now, who's going to start half-wheeling here? Just not putting in full measures. We're going to find out. 33.1 kilometres from home, and this is the Fromberg.
Carapaz coming across.
Keutenberg as well.
One of the Alpecin Deceuninck riders, but you know, this is a good climb. Not as steep as the previous two. They've kind of stung the legs already with these attacks. A little bit longer, a little bit gradual. As we can see, 8.5 maximum this one, but it's a long enough climb at 1,700 metres to do the damage, and it certainly is trying to do that with the race coming into action now.
This is the there it is, told you, second chasing group. Meanwhile, a couple of others have been collected and neutralised by what looks like a fighting force of about 35 riders at the moment, including Van der Poel. There's been plenty distance. Look at the altitude we're getting here. That's a beautiful shot showing you how far from the valleys we've actually come up. And with 32.6 kilometres of a day, that is totaling 253 kilometres. You get the idea. Having already done, Brian, 220 odd kilometres, this is now about fatigue. Mentioned it earlier, but now it's really starting to show. We're losing some big names off the back.
We're only talking about 10-15 minutes ago, the size of the peloton.
Yeah.
Look at it now. As soon as the spark comes, those two kind of really steep climbs, this is a little bit kind of longer, not so steep. You know, they start to kind of really kind of race this. Fatigue does play a huge amount when you try to kind of put the pressure on in these steep climbs, and you know you've got nothing left. It's hard, but this race has been squeezed for the moment anyway. I think Lepera and Honoré have done a good job. Vervaeke was with them, he dropped back. Mollema trying to come across with the French champion Madouas, but I just think the gap isn't big enough just behind, but almost pretty much over the top of this climb now. So let's see what's happening behind. It just kind of kicks up a little bit just over the top, but still a lot of riders still in contention here.
There are no sustenance required. Nice that they were offering indeed drinks and gels across the team here. It's the interests, of course, of both the team. Decathlon AG Tour on a Mondial with Paul Lepera and indeed Honoré, to make sure that some of the fluids get where they need to be, no matter if it's a handover. Van der Poel just waiting as well to see what other moves are going to happen here. Lucas Eriksson of Tudor is actually he's absent from this at the moment, so forgive me. I'm just misreading a colour here.
Just look at the colours in the group now, Carlton.
Yeah.
I thought just with Carapaz there was one rider from Alpecin Deceuninck, whether it was Quinten Hermans or not, never kind of quite caught it, but just when we thought that this group was almost coming back, looks as if Soudal Quickstep have fired Van Sevenant over into it. One of the riders from Groupama just towards the back as well. So, you know, they've made it into this group, and I think that's Quinten Pasher just at the back there in the dark blue. So, you know, the two in front's been there for a while now. Now we get a group of 6, but it does look as if Mathieu van der Poel is now isolated in this group behind.
No teammates around him, but he's been doing most of the leading for his teammates. Quite often when he was out of position, he'd actually lead a mini train with him guiding his teammates up. They would then go in front of him and offer up some protection to him. He's very much been the star turn of Alpecin Deceuninck. Indeed, even when they were second tier team, he was shining brightly, as you well know. And Mark Hirschi has been absolutely fantastic today, Brian. I'm still wondering whether he might actually almost accidentally end up helping himself, because we haven't heard from Ayuso. It's not seen. I've mentioned Finn Fisher-Black, but not really up towards the front. João Almeida, Brandon McNulty, who was busy at the beginning of the day. UAE Team Emirates. I mean, what a fifth card to play in Mark Hirschi. Amazing.
It definitely is. And we've got another group here. 3 riders. I think
so
I just saw
Ayuso,
Pale Bilbao trying to come across here, but just look at the numbers here as we come round here. Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, where are his teammates? If he is isolated, this is kind of difficult times now, because, you know, after this club we got this descent, and then we start heading towards you know, the kind of Coburg now, but the significant group behind, including some really kind of big names. I think Pale Bilbao is just coming round that corner. It looks as if he may get across. It's a big effort anyway. Now we've got another 3 riders trying to get across, but importantly, a lot of the favourites have got you know, riders in this group.
Juan Ayuso is part of the Van der Poel group, and he's got with him João Almeida. João Almeida often takes a long time to warm up. You see him in a stage race. If it's a short stage race, he'll be great at the end of the week. I'm actually wondering whether Almeida's running hot today. It should be, I think, for protecting Ayuso, but I think that might well be your winner there. Sometimes just being anonymous is a great thing, and UAE Team Emirates have been extremely quiet today, save for Mark Hirschi, who's put a real stamp on this race by making sure he's in the right place at the wrong time for everybody else. So he's done a super job, yeah.
I think this is really significant here.
I know it is,
Tom
yeah.
Pidcock has just come across with Tiesj Benoot and Matthijs Lavelle. I think it was Bilbao that came across, but you know, we're coming on to another, I think, the significant climb coming up now, and I think what we'll see here is Mathieu van der Poel trying to dart across. He's leaving it a little bit late. There's a lot of riders, but like we saw in the Ron van Vlaanderen, he's going to use this steep climb as and try and kind of catapult himself across the front of this race now, because this is too dangerous. Too many good riders here, especially with Tom Pidcock.
It is fantastic. Pidcock, Tiesj Benoot, Van Sevenen, Adria, Mollema, Vauquelin, Madouas, Pasher, and Mark Hirschi, the ubiquitous. Now, Hirschi it is that's still putting on the hurt. Now, this is to tempt out Mathieu van der Poel in the hope, I think, that Ayuso and Almeida can actually get onto his coattails. Exchanging duties, Tiesj Benoot comes through to the fore. I guess, you know, he's got another teammate with Matteo Jorgensen further behind, but look at the way they're skirmishing. They want to put some insurance into this climb. They know what's coming behind them, and Tom Pidcock really driving into this gap as well. Super riding, Brian.
Yeah, it's Tiesj Benoot, you know, and it's about trying to kind of stay with Van Sevenen, he's all over his bike trying to go with a Thijs Benoot. But it'd be nice to actually see the front of the peloton. I think we will see some significant action, because it has to, because there's some strong riders in here. Tom Pidcock putting himself right in the kind of box seat here with this group of 4. So, they seem to be the strongest. Hershey looks as if he's on some good form at the moment. Van Sevenen, I just think, happy to be there by the looks of things. But Tom Pidcock riding a good race.
I still think the UAE Team Emirates might well be playing a blinder, having Mark Hershey up the road here, but with Pidcock, Thijs Benoot and Van Sevenen. That's the thing about strategy. It's all very well on paper, but paper's highly flammable, and quite frankly, this could be a burn down today of strategy for some other teams. It's about adaptability, and if you've got strength in numbers like UAE Team Emirates and the likes of Hershey just tearing it up at the moment. Let's see what else. Tom Pidcock doing a brilliant job of doing what Mathieu van der Poel would hope to do, getting himself over to a principal group. And right now, this looks like a good quartet. Further back down behind, Honoré, who's been part of several moves today, also has another move. And Bauke Mollema just charging him down. Few of the notables. As you can see, just coming in to join proceeding, it is Pello Bilbao, who's tried several times to make sure he's in the right group. But where is Mathieu van der Poel? We're all asking. We're going to find out in a short while. They come over the crest of this one with 27.6 kilometres to go. It's a little bit of respite now, Brian, before we've got a long reach before we get to the Coburg. It's going to be extra crucial. We're going to be asking ourselves yet again, we've done it in the past, we said who's going to be there with 18.6 kilometres to go. At the moment, not Mathieu van der Poel. We're waiting to see where he is, Brian.
Yeah, I would love to see what's happening at the front of the peloton. For the moment anyway, we aren't getting these pictures, but this is a significant group. There's a few key riders in here. Say it again, Tom Pidcock, one of the kind of pre-favourites, has got himself in there, and a significant group of riders here, all coming back together just over the top here. But the interest for me is what's happening behind. We saw it's been stripped out. It was about 35 seconds. I don't quite believe. I'm pretty sure there has to be some sort of reaction from the group behind.
Kevin Vauquelin just takes a toot, dispatches the bottle. Great all-rounder Vauquelin. He's got a bit of a time trialling head on him as well. Possibly wouldn't be a favoured if it came down to a sprint towards the end. Another great climber, a great servant of the past. Bauke Mollema, probably a bit veteran status these days. 30 seconds is the declared gap back to the Van der Poel group, which you're looking at right now as it regathers itself. But even this is split into a number of groups, very modest splits, as you can see. But Van der Poel just a couple of bike lengths down on a group that's being led by Michael Matthews with Ben Healy. As it stands at the moment, Matthews looking over, not wanting to do all the work himself, and the call's been answered. Is that Camp? It is Camp that's gone off up the road. Why is that wheel not being followed, Brian?
Well, I think we just go over the top of the climb there. Everybody's just catching their breath a little bit. Michael Matthews was propped on the front, and Camp just made that slight acceleration. It doesn't look as if Mathieu van der Poel, we talked about having patience today, but he must be thinking that others will do it when they're clearly not. This is a significant group in front of 12 solid riders, and if they don't kind of sort it out behind, these riders could go all the way to the finish. I don't think they will at this stage. I think there's still plenty of action to be had from the group behind, but quick glance behind from Tom Pidcock, and I think he'll be happy with the way the situation of the race is going at the moment. To be here at this stage without some key riders, I think is really significant for Tom Pidcock.
I agree. Valentin Madouas is the only man with a teammate here, Quentin Pacher, which means that there are 11 teams up the road. That's going to have a neutralising effect. There's very few teams that have missed out, Brian, so there's not many teams who will want to do the work to just challenge a gap that one of their teammates finds himself in the front group.
That's the thing with so many riders in front. Group of 12. It's left to Stevie Williams having to do a little bit of chasing here. You've got Uno X, but look at the other teams, the other members of the teams that are in front. They're just kind of sitting there, nice and easy. So this could be a significant part of the race today. Mathieu van der Poel a little bit further down in this group with no teammates by the looks of things.
It's getting on for half a kilometre between this group of the pre-race favourites, I think it's fair to say, or at least many of them. A couple of other of the pre-race favourites find themselves in the front group this year, and they're working very well together. Hershey looks like he may well have been given a free hand here. I don't know whether that is word coming back from Ayuso and Almeida that, quite frankly, he needs to get everything he can get out of today. Let's not forget the American Brandon McNulty as well. You'd expect him to actually thrive on a day like this. Finn Fisher-Black, likewise from down under. And it's Hershey, the Swiss champion, who's been incredibly busy today. In fact, he's done most of the work, I would say, for his team. But more than that, more work than just about anyone, I think, in the peloton. Still bouncing away, as you can see. And that's Van Sevenant from Soudal Quick-Step picking it up. There's too many teams here for a real chase to be an effective one behind. Teams that have missed out include Israel Premier Tech. You saw Steve Williams trying to do some work as well. Very effective rider he is, but he's going to need help. And when 11 teams essentially are negated by having a rider up the road, it's a tough question as to know who to throw up there. X.
Well, look at the peloton behind Carlton.
Yeah, they can't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's chasing. A lot of the teams back there have got teammates in front. Maybe it's not the teammate they would have expected at this time. Might not be the favourites, but this is significant. I said it before about key moment of this race. Mathieu van der Poel, we've not seen much of him today apart from just being near the front, but it looks as if Quinten Hermans is just moving up and going to kind of help out Israel Premier Tech. But a few teams have missed this group of 12 riders, and they're having to pay for it now. But if I was to kind of choose one rider from each team, it might not be the riders that are here, but if you are here, you're in with a super chance of trying to win this bike race.
Well, Volkner, I think, would have been a premier choice. Lipera, possibly not. Tom Pidcock, definitely. Thijs Benoot, quite possibly. Just looking through Van Sevenant, yeah, that would have been a call. Peo Bilbao, Valentin Madouas, of course. So a lot of the first choices, and none bigger, I guess you might say, within this group. It's arguable, of course, but Tom Pidcock, phenomenal. And the way he came over suggests that he's actually got a lot of firepower still on board. I'm going to love the way this one unwinds, Brian. I think they're strong.
Yeah, same here. I'm just wondering what Mollema's doing here. A very experienced bike rider. He kind of moved to the back. He might have not been the choice for them today. I think it would have been for kind of Schelmos, but he's going to miss it out. So, okay, he'll roll through, hoping that maybe something will happen in the final. But Tom Pidcock being here is a big shout.
It's nearly 3/4 of a minute with 22.6 kilometres to go, and the threat from this group that's pushed on is vast. Look at it. It's expanding to a high-quality group that, of course, it includes many of the pre-race favourites, but we've got plenty of those up front as well. Mark Hershey was not the big choice for UAE Team Emirates, but finds himself now in a place where I think he's off the leash. It's odd Christian Eiking, by the way, who's pushing on here for Uno X, who's trying to make the bridge but can't do so. And the peloton sits at 51 seconds now. This might be it, It would take a lot of alliances to be suddenly formed back here. And there is Ayuso. Jan Christen is also here. UAE have kind of, it's hard to say miss the boat because they've got Mark Hershey, who's been on great form at the moment, up the road. But, his Palmares really spoke loudly to us a few years ago. So it's down to the likes of Simon Clark here for Israel, flicking the elbow out and just wanting to invoke some sort of chase. Jayco are interested as well because they've got Michael Matthews as part of this chasing pack. There's a few others who've very much missed out. Schelmos is here, the Danish champion. And of course, Mathieu van der Poel himself, isolated, no teammates around him, did a lot of work policing today, and I think they may well possibly have run out of some resources. Van der Poel is indeed here, and they're trying with Quinten Hermans. That's his last chance, really. Michael Matthews is sitting there thinking, well, I wonder Van der Poel's going to do, and I think that Ayuso and Almeida are doing the same. This is a dangerous game they're playing, Brian. That quality group's up the road by just nearly 50 seconds.
It is, and one of the favourites being Tom Pidcock as well. So, yeah, you have to say that he's kind of sneaked into this group. He's in a very good position. We're getting ever so closer now to the really kind of fast descent towards the Cauberg, and really they have to kind of bring this back inside 30 seconds if any of these guys are trying to kind of shoot across to the front of the race. But I was just looking at Michael Matthews there. He has looked good in recent weeks. Luckily he's got Mauro Schmidt here to try and kind of help him. Israel Premier Tech riding a little bit as well. Quinten Hermans is the only rider in this group for Mathieu van der Poel. So I think the shout from the team car for some of these riders is just bury yourself, bring it back to about 30 seconds, and then in the Cauberg, that's where we may see some action in this second group.
Vauquelin's made it to this group as well, and he was on the lips of many before we actually came to today, but I think this is great news for Tom Pidcock. He's got no teammate around him, but he's in that kind of battling scenario. He's dispatching everything in this litter zone, as you can see, just lightening up. Who's your pick from this group, Brian, if it does go all the way? Tom Pidcock?
I would say Tom Pidcock, yeah, but this, Bilbao, he's looked good as well. Mark Hirschi, good sprints, coming to form as well. Never discount Tej Benoot. So there's a few strong, real, riders in here. Madouas, you remember commentating on him when he won the French Championships. He's not doing too much. Pacheur doing a little bit more, but look, it's not over yet. It's not going to be, red carpet all the way to the finish for kind of Tom Pidcock. But, if the gap does go up significantly, then it's going to be, we're going to see attacks come to finish. But for the moment, the peloton, they ain't finished riding to try and bring this gap down. But you have to think this is going to be a huge effort. If Mathieu van der Poel or anybody else goes on the Cauberg, then can you follow? Can you close this 45-second gap? It's going to be a huge effort at this state of the play.
Well, the effort that you spend, Brian, the energy you spend to get up to this very high-quality front group are working well together. There's not really any passengers here, save.
I think they've slowed a little bit now.
Yeah, they have just a little bit, but I think it's because they're preserving their energy as well, Brian. They must be starting to strategise as to how they're going to shake off those around them late on.
There's a lot of riders being a bit cagey now. Now we're swinging into this kind of famous corner now. Huge crowds, as there always has been, into town here. Out of town, up the Cauberg, 43 seconds. That is really, a big gap.
It is. Let's see if it expands, shall we? It's coming the other way just for the time being, but here we are. Time to take it on. It's the Cauberg. And look at the crowds here. This is absolutely magnificent. And a little bit of a push on. Roger Adria got a little bit of everything. Loves climbing this kind of spiky terrain. Kevin Vauquelin, a little bit of time trialing ahead on him, just behind the French champion. As you can see, Valentin Madouas just starting to bounce, and a few others just starting to roll a little bit. Honoré just struggling off the back, and Hirschi just comes to the front with Pao Bilbao on his case. Pao Bilbao's got a little of explosivity about him, and the Danish champion now picks it up from this major group behind. Shelmos doesn't want to miss out, but quite frankly, looking back down this group, they're looking a little bit breathy, and I'm not surprised after the sort of distance that they've put in today. It's been absolutely relentless, Brian, and the effort you're putting in right now, if you haven't got anyone who's prepared to offer you a turn, this is going to be dangerous.
Well, the fact that Honoré was getting dropped there is significant, because it means that EF Education are on the back foot now. They have to kind of try and do something for the rest of the race. But this is why Mollema wasn't really contributing. We can see he's kind of going to the front now. He'll know what's happening behind. I'll look behind as well. He'll know that Skelmos is on the attack, but he hasn't distanced anybody at all. What they're trying to do is maybe try and kind of fire some riders across small group. Dylan Towns is there, Cosnefroid up there as well. Marijn van der Berg for the EF Education Easy Boss. He rode really well in Brabant Spiel during the week, but 35 seconds, we're getting ever so closer to the top of the kind of steep part of this climb, but as everybody knows, it kind of drags on all the way towards the finish.
And Laipera is that hits the front. He's only 23 years of age. He's been brilliant this year. Stage of the Basque Country went his way, don't forget. He can turn on a little bit of a sprint, and that day was much shorter than today. 160 kilometres, it was our run into Canbo, but he beat some very, very good riders that were hovering around him after a tough day with rises and falls of the Basque Country. And look at the way the shoulders are rolling here. It's the same for just about everybody, but Ayuso's trying to stay with it. Michael Matthews showing his strength. And what's happened to Van der Poel here, Brian? He's been left behind. They're attacking him, essentially. He can't respond.
Yeah, he's just sitting there. He's hoping that, allowing others to do it, but, they aren't doing it for the moment anyway. But Michael Matthews just kind of rolling over the top now. But yeah, it's all kind of splitting up now. And, we're seeing so many attacks now. But, Mathieu van der Poel not doing what we normally kind of see him, kind of closing these gaps. So he is, either he's feeling good and he's just remaining so patient. I don't really care if I win or lose. I'm just going to play it the way I want to play it.
Picks it up, changes the tempo, drives out of it. I think that's Almeida is trying to stay with him. Now is where he's trying to bridge, and suddenly the news has got through. And if it's going in on the radio, then they are screaming at Pidcock to action a little bit of pace here. 30 seconds, and in fact, in this foreshortening, I think you might well see Matthews. There he is coming up. Van der Poel won't be that far behind. I wouldn't have thought if he's got anything left in the legs, and that's been a regathering behind. They tried to roll off the front. Is that, Van der Poel just there within that group. So let's get a definitive, shall we, as they come to cross the finish line with 16 kilometres to go. It's marginal. Has he played an absolute blinder, Van der Poel? And who else has got anything left on a day like this? It's been absolutely relentless. 500 metres until we get to what will be the finish line at the end of today. It's still a big fighting force up front, but they're regathering, I'm afraid, to try and neutralise them. There's the man, Honoré, is trying to bridge out front, still looking at the Van der Poel group behind, and here is the seconds gap. That's 14 seconds for Honoré, who's in no man's land just for the time being, and here come the remainder, the peloton, I think we're allowed to call it, which includes, of course, Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, and plenty of other big names as well, Brian. They've got a task on their hands. Time's running out.
He seems to, just be happy sitting here. I don't think he's worried too much. He's won some big races this year already, and he's playing the game as, guys, if you want to win a big race this year, then go ahead and do it. I'm just going to kind of sit here because he is isolated. And I said when Honoré was dropped here, it forced the team of EF Education Easy Post on the back foot, and they are on the back foot now. They're having to chase, they're having to use the riders, but not all cohesive at the front for the moment anyway. Only 25 seconds. It's doable, and I think EF Education Easy Post will close this gap.
2 more climbs to come. Peyo Bilbao fancies it, and he says if nobody else wants it, I'll grab it myself. Kevin Vauquelin is the man who just invokes the pace behind. Roger Adria tucks in with him as well, and this is a drive. Peyo Bilbao, great descender as well, good climber too, and he'll just tuck in behind this motorcycle that's punching a big hole in the air, bringing us these wonderful pictures. No shame in that at all. He's going to use every trick he possibly can, gets a bit of space. Peyo Bilbao could deliver this. It would be a fabulous one for him, and he's got a proper gap, checks over his shoulder. Now how much does he want to put into it with 14.5? Is he happy to go along alone? Pidcock in wheel 4 here, and indeed he does not want Peyo Bilbao to go away from him. He believes that's the danger, and he now starts to drive over. So it's Bilbao there in the white jersey taking the corner. There goes Tom Pidcock as well. Also Mark Hirschi is still not finished with the day yet. Absolutely remarkable drive by the Swiss. He comes over. Nothing from Quentin Pacher just for the time being. He's looking after Valentin Madouas, the French champion, and Peyo Bilbao comes in to this one as well. He's climbing, he's driving, he's got Pidcock for company. Bilbao, Pidcock, Hirschi, and looking behind we have Pacher driving it on. Others want to come through. Bocamolema's thinking about it. Thijs Benoot likewise. Thinking and doing can be different things entirely. Van Sevenant kind of knows he rides like this anyway when he's even when he's fresh. He starts to drift over. Tom Pidcock is leading him up this climb, and Peyo Bilbao tucks into his wheel. This is fabulous, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely great racing, and you know, Tom Pidcock not missing a heartbeat for the moment anyway, but they really have to kind of keep pushing on, and I think that's what Tom Pidcock is trying to do. They have to get this group organised, and I don't think everybody wants to kind of push on. Let's see what's happening from the group behind, with DEF Education Easy Post trying to kind of chase this one down. Honoré get dropped, that changed a little bit. Skelmos might try to come across to this group again. They've got Mollema here. I don't think they would be overly confident with Mollema here, but you never know. He's got the experience, and you know, other stranger things have happened, but for the moment it's still EF Education Easy Post, but now helped by Lotto Destiny.
Oh, poor Honoré, just about to be collected here. There is Mathieu van der Poel, still maybe with a little bit of belief. 28 seconds. It could be a hell of a drive. Let's wait and see as Hergé picks it back up yet again. Tiesj Benoot is staying with him. 28, 29 seconds. Whenever there's a marginal acceleration like this, that gap automatically expands. Tom Pidcock doing a great job of staying with this. Pello Bilbao looks like he's spent after the efforts earlier on. Sometimes that's last roll of the dice time, isn't it? And Pello Bilbao looks like he's just about to, if he hasn't just now, go pop. A little bit of a shilly-shally through here as we come over this latest crest. Gum Hammelberg is dealt with. We still have one big climb, that's the Bemmelberg to deal with. 33 climbs today, one remaining for us to tackle, Brian. It's relentless.
It is, and I think this is what it needs. It needs a small group, 3 or 4 riders, if they want to come to the line together. I think the whole group of 12, they weren't willing to kind of help each other. The gap was kind of holding around kind of 20, 30 seconds now. I think it may come back, but I tell you what, this is going to be a nail-biter, this last kind of 13 kilometres. It could almost come back to a sprint.
It could do, but 4 have gone. Pello Bilbao has now refound his drive, and he now heads off. That's Kevin Vauquelin thinking about it in the red. There's Madouas, the French champion, just guiding his own teammate here, Quentin Pacher. I'll be hoping that Pacher can regather himself and offer him up a bit of a turn. The only man with teammates up front. We said it was significant, and with so many teams involved, 11 up front as it was, then there's a lack of desire to chase it down and neutralise your own teammate. But Pello Bilbao doggedly tries to come over yet again. Pello Bilbao, we remind you, has got a very, very good kick on the climb. It looked like he faded last time by, but he's a half-decent time trialist as well, so he's can tempo well. He won't want to sprint at the end of the day, and there'll be a lot of that factoring going into this, Brian.
Yeah, and still 35, 36 seconds to the group behind, and you know, they still have enough time to close all this down, but yeah, what it needs is a kind of smaller group. Not everybody's was contributing, and yeah, it's still in the balance as far as I'm concerned. A lot of effort here being done at the front of the main peloton by EF Education Easy Post and Lotto Destiny, but you can't help think that they may be helping Mathieu van der Poel as well.
A little bit of a disruptor here in the form of Kwiatkowski, just making sure he's on the nasty side of any curves that get taken, just trying to upset the balance of Education Easy Post along the way. Meanwhile, little flicks out of elbows here. The Bidon went the wrong way, nearly took out Van der Poel. That's Matthews on his back wheel. There's still a lot of drive, a lot of power back there. It's sitting at 40 seconds, though, Brian, from the front group here who've distanced those who were with them by a modest margin. Has Pello Bilbao got in here? Is he still in no man's land? Can't quite see him.
No, he's back with the group behind. But this is another significant part of if these 4 riders continue to do this, then they could come to the line together, but they have to keep trying. I think they seem to be the kind of 4 strongest riders now. You've got Lapera, he's a passenger now to this group, but let's see what the Irish champion Ben Healy can do. He's got Carapaz to kind of help out. They're leaving it really, really late, but you never know.
There we go.
Mathieu van der Poel moving up here, and who else is going to get involved with the chase? It's too close for comfort for the moment, but still looking good for the 4 riders in front, because they have it in their sights, this victory with 10 kilometres to go. They just have to keep on working well together.
Just seeing whose wheel he's following here. It's Georges Zimmermann of Intermarché One-T. Thought, yeah, thank you very much. I'll have a magic carpet ride. 38 seconds. Yeah, starting to. They've got no choice, Brian, because time's running out. We're 10 kilometres from home.
It is, and I'll say it again, we could see another sprint finish here. We've seen a lot of stranger things in this race, close finishes and all that, but 39 seconds is not a done deal yet. But if the 4 riders in front of Mark Hirschi, Tom Pidcock, Thijs Benoot and Mauro van Zevenot keep on doing this, keep on riding, then they stand a significant chance of winning this race. Any moment of hesitation between any of these groups, and it could be the peloton just gobbling them up.
Just a double check into the corner there from Tom Pidcock, rebalanced himself beautifully, showing his cross skills, brilliant bike handler. Meanwhile, on the hurry up here, Madouas, as you can see, is part of this group, but the gap still 8 seconds. 4 very strong riders up front, Tom Pidcock, Mark Hirschi, Thijs Benoot and Mauro van Zevenot. I'm just wondering whether we're going to have 4 riders who start cat and mousing, and then all of a sudden Van der Poel finds the drive. He's done it before, Brian, nicking it at the very last, hasn't he?
He could be doing it again, but he's not going to do it on his own, because he has to, he has to kind of sit back and allow EF Education. He's supposed to do it. Intermarché now getting involved, Lotto Destiny and things like that. They could help. 38 seconds, still just under 9 kilometres to go. It's going to be one of these epic finishes, Carlton.
It is. It's building up to be 2021 all over again. In case you didn't see that, Wout van Aert there was a few punchy moments that we've had in the past. That was a shame that Wout van Aert, I was just about to say, is hobbled it out of this. I think he would have been an exceptional person to be part, indeed, of the mix here, but just not to be. We may well see that we're going to have a very, very close finish, is what we're alluding to. Once again, do not rule out Mathieu van der Poel. He's the sort of guy who can make this stick, Brian.
He is, but there's nothing he can do. He's been caught out. He's in the third group at the moment. I think I'll still say Tom Pidcock is still in the box seat here. He's still the favourite for me. And Mark Hirschi, never write him off. He looks really strong today. Thijs Benoot, Van Zevenot, just here for the ride, but you never know in a tactical finish coming up with either of these 2 riders.
Well, Mathieu van der Poel has done it before, don't forget, the Amstel Gold Race. Simon Clarke was nearest man to him on that famous day where he managed to bridge. Jakob Fuglsang made up the podium. Julien Alaphilippe licking his wounds emotionally that day. Schachmann likewise. We've seen super close finishes in this race. It's a never say die race, Brian, and if you want a never say die rider, it's Mathieu van der Poel, but he's got a problem at the moment, and that is the quality of the quartet who are up front. They're brilliant.
It is, and all it needs is Van Zevenot being told just start sitting in. He's the rider probably with the least sprints at the front, and we know that Soudal Quick-Step have had a terrible Cobble Classic campaign. Even to get on the podium for Van Zevenot, that would be a big success for them, trying to win the race. If he starts to sit on, what else is going to happen? But for the moment anyway, it's holding at 40 seconds. It's still looking good for the Pidcock group at the front, but it's not a done deal because Mark Hirschi is, I think, as fast as Tom Pidcock in this type of finish.
Can you imagine? I mean, it was, 2020, wasn't it? Took the Flesh one on. Was just, on exceptional form. He's had success since then, of course. Went on to take that year a stage on the Tour de France. It looked like the world was his oyster. And then that oyster just snapped shut, I think you might say. And the Drôme Classic has gone his way, however. Edged Ayuso, Van Hills, Warren Barguil, quality riders, Mark Hirschi this year. So he's, I guess you might say, back to winning ways. But more than that was Milan Torino got himself on the podium and has been very, very strong. And he's been super strong on this day as well. It's starting to shred behind, Brian. They're worrying, and rightly so.
Yeah, Lapera, he's had some great success so far. Pasha goes after him. I think the legs have gone from that kind of chasing group now.
Oh, look at that.
It's now or never for Lapera to get across in this kind of final climb now. It's whether they start playing cat and mouse now in towards the finish. If they do, it'll be all over. But what's happening in the group behind, that's what I want to see as well.
So do I. Did you see the way Tom Pidcock just drifted to the side of the road? He wanted to see the expressions on Hirschi, Benoot and Van Zevenot's face. Oh, and why wouldn't you? Roger Adria making inroads, and Ben Healy doing a phenomenal job back here, the Irish champion. Mathieu van der Poel at the moment has got his assassin's face on, 6.3 kilometres. How close do you think, what kilometre will be too late for 33 seconds to be bridgeable for Van der Poel today?
I don't think it's bridgeable at the moment, unless these guys start to mess around. I said probably 5-10 minutes ago the race is probably won from these four if they continue to work. All it needs is one rider to start messing around. But I tell you what, Paul Ripera is coming across here. Yeah. I know it's a huge effort, and he was kind of sitting on a little bit. Cosnefroy was tried something in the Coburg, but this is a man you don't want to come across, because Ripera, we know he can sprint, we know he's on form, and this is a danger for the four riders in front. Let's see.
Shockingly good climbing, Lipera as well in Laigueglia and the Dome as well. The Dome, don't forget. Basque Country, we saw
he's not waiting.
Flashes of brilliance, and he's not waiting. He can't, because he knows that Lipera in a sprint may well be a danger. And he's gone, Brian. Tom Pidcock has said, look, I've had enough of this, and Hershey can't follow him. Or at least doesn't want to drag the others along for the game here. He wants some help. They want to exchange. It's a destruction, I think, of the Accord, Brian. And Tom Pidcock has now got his head down.
You know, I think, you know, looking at it, Van Sevenant, his legs are obviously starting to blow now with the effort he's doing. But I think looking round, my comment about Hershey, don't forget about him. I think he can sprint as well as Tom Pidcock in the end. I think Tom Pidcock wants to kind of try and kind of nail this victory today. He wants to get rid of the others. He wants to do it solo. But it's that attack there. He's been brought back. But I do believe now that the fact that Tom Pidcock is attacking now, I believe now that the winner is going to come from the front group now.
Well, let's see if Lipera can make it over. He's now dealt with the final climb. He's had some great success in the Basque Country in Tacambo, as we mentioned, and they're looking behind, and they're reassembling as a quartet here. Well, I don't know whether there's going to be a few a bit of an eyebrow semaphore between them here. There's certainly not going to be any words exchanged. Van Sevenant gets himself back in, waiting to see if how far back Lipera is. There he is. He's coming. Lipera is on a march here. Could it be we have a quintet, a 5-up sprint? I don't think it's going to be Mathieu van der Poel with 4.5 kilometres to go and 3/4 of a minute, Brian. That's a big gap.
No, I don't think it's the chase from EF Education Easy Post. These have to continue to ride. It's the only way. Start messing around, 44 seconds could be snaffled up very, very quickly. But I think they realise now it's better to have 3 than 4, because they know that they are almost guaranteed a podium place here if they continue this. Van Sevenant has made it back. That's significant. I think Van Sevenant is the linchpin here to what happens in the running. I don't think he'll be wanting to do much.
Oh, just looking at those barriers, and they've caught somebody. Exposed barrier feet, not what you want at all. I think it was Carapaz, yeah. Who else has been tagged here?
No, it's Marijn van den Berg.
It is.
But the thing is, the fact that Van Sevenant's here, he knows that he's not, and he's starting to miss turns. They might be a little bit worried about him. And he will try and force it. He will try and attack. He'll get his breath back. He won't do anything at all in the last 3.5 kilometres. But I think he'll want to try and kind of distance the other 3 in the run in towards the final. But they're starting to play around now. Lipera is only 9 seconds behind, but I think the effort coming so close to the finish now, I think, you know, that's going to blunt his sprint. But I really do think that Tom Pidcock was a little bit worried about Hershey and vice versa.
Let's see. Well, they kind of mock each other at the moment. Pidcock not wanting to come through. Has a look back to see Lipera. Hershey has a look at Tom Pidcock, who had already done a visage check on those around him. And still they're looking back because they fear Lipera. A couple of motorcycles here as well, just offering up maybe a little bit of a bow wave. But the man, Lipera, is not bowed either, I guess you might say. He's at 12-second margin. That seems too big with 2.8 kilometres to go. If they start cat and mousing, Brian, they could even get themselves in trouble. We saw that back in the day.
Yeah, they're already kind of easing back a little bit. Van Sevenant getting a little bit of a moment to get his breath back. Like you say, I don't think Lipera at this stage I think the punches out his leg. You've got to remember he was in that original kind of group of 3 riders.
Yeah.
He's ridden significantly on the front already. I think he's starting to tire a little bit. It's Van Sevenant for me. When is he going to have a go? Is there going to be any hesitation? Are they going to look at each other? The fact that Tom Pidcock fancies his chances, so does Hershey. Tiesj Benoot is strong in a final like this, but is he looking for a last-minute attack? But I think definitely Van Sevenant is the rider here, just looking to go on that kind of counter-attack, trying to go solo, and saving every ounce of energy he's got to be able to try and do that.
Oh, do you know what? I just don't know. I don't know who to hang my hat on for this one. Hart, of course, says Pidcock. I'd love to see it. But then again, the Hart is also speaking to me about Mark Hershey, who's just on stellar form from a very, very strong team. He finds himself after doing all the work all day, possibly on behalf of his teammates. He's up front. He's in this quartet. Van Sevenant, I'm not sure. I don't know how much effort he's put into getting to this position. But every pedal stroke they have that's not at full gas is going to favour him. I'd love to see Tiesj Benoot do it, for the oldies. That would just be something. Strade Bianchi went his way, don't forget, back in 2018. Kuurne Brussels Kuurne last year. He's still a danger, very much so. Lipera here at a margin of 17 seconds, and others coming back to join the fun, but there's only 1,600 metres to go. Coming into the crowds here, and Van Sevenant hits the front. I'm not sure of the wisdom of that, Brian. He fears Lipera, maybe.
I was looking at that as well. He clearly doesn't want the other riders to come on. He doesn't possess a sprint. I'd have just, sat at the back of them and, and used everything I can. Now that Tiesj Benoot is in the box seat at the back, he'll be the rider that will want to kind of surprise everybody, hoping that Hershey and Pidcock will look at each other. But I think by the way the Van Sevenant's riding, it looks as if he'll take 4th place.
Tiesj Benoot picks it up. He goes, just dropping in is Van Sevenant. Hershey just one off the back where we find Tom Pidcock. 1,100 metres to go. At least they know the final and the approach, and they sail through at pace here. And the pace is knocked off by Tiesj Benoot. He fears Van Sevenant, who stayed with him. Hershey's still very much there. Tiesj Benoot thinking about going up for a long one. Neutralised by Mark Hershey, who drifts over, takes Tom Pidcock with him. Tom Pidcock more than alive to the threat behind at the 700-metre mark. There's the finish line up ahead, and they just fold into each other once again. Tiesj Benoot, to me, looks very, very strong here. Van Sevenant looked like he struggled to get back to him. Meanwhile, there are 5 riders here from the original breakaway, with Lipera, who's still got a bit of strength about him, might only be for 5th place, I'm afraid. And here comes the big group, of course, with Mathieu van der Poel. They have a look. Van Sevenant is the first to panic, is he? Not quite just yet. Tiesj Benoot waiting for him. Peyo Bilbao is thinking about making a steal. He's going to try and bridge over here with 200 to go. Van Sevenant picks it up. He's acting as lead in. Tiesj Benoot looks very, very strong. Comes up onto the side wheel here, and suddenly finding a space. Tom Pidcock goes for the barriers here. Tiesj Benoot, it looks like he may well have this one. Tom Pidcock got the drive though. It's going to be 3 up. It's going to be on the throw. Oh, Tom Pidcock just gets there. Brilliant at work. That was fantastic. Just moderated his drive until the very last. Played an excellent game of poker at the very end. That was superb. What a race. Never disappoints. The Amstel Gold Race is a thriller every single time. What about that, Brian?
Yeah, another exciting finish, wasn't it? When I saw him hit the front top, I was praying for him, do not put your hands up too early. Not in this race. And he didn't. He left it, hit the line, put his hands up. Another good victory here, and I think, it has to be well deserved. You look back at 30 odd kilometres out, that significant group of 12 riders made the difference, and it wasn't that kind of glory moment for Mathieu van der Poel. Good win for Tom Pidcock, and they really did deserve that one. Worked ever so hard for each other, but it was the case of that group, they had to keep riding all the way to the line.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas have fallen off their chairs. They have been guesting with what's occurring on Eurosport Cycling. I hope you've enjoyed that today. I'm sure we'll be in their good company in the future, but this man, Tom Pidcock, deserves all the plaudits. Kwiatkowski just offering up his congratulations, as we do as well. That was a hell of a day, Brian. And talk us through this cat and mouse ending.
Well, they knew, they were coming. Van Seven had made it, handed it out for everybody there because, he wanted to really kind of finish in fourth place. It was Tej Benoot that kind of launched. He was strong, but Hershey was just waiting for Tom Pidcock. Pidcock goes down the barrier side, and Hershey at this moment seemed to be, is there a gap? He was tiring, and he was coming in the end. And like I was saying, I was just hoping that Tom Pidcock didn't start to, put his hands up too early. But, 100 metres ago, he hits the front, and at that stage, he was the strongest in the end. Good sprint there for Tej Benoot. Van Sevenant just kind of hanging in there for fourth place. Lapera, shows his form in taking the fifth place there. But when you look down that finishing straight, it was ever so close by everybody there. But it was significant out on course. When this group of 12 went, 11 teams represented. That was a significant part. Honoré get dropped, forced EF Education Easy Post to do the riding. They couldn't close, and the favourite from the group managed to pull it off.
How wonderful is that? Thomas Pidcock brings it home ahead of Mark Hershey, Tej Benoot, Van Sevenant, Lapera, Madouas, Bauke Mollema. Well, I hope you enjoyed it today. Thanks so much for your kind thoughts on Twitter. It's been a joy to have your company. Those of you on linear, we're going to be heading off to the mountain biking before you know it, but we'll be staying for the award ceremony here on digital. Hershey, no shame in his finish today. Runner-up, really back on terrific form. What a day. The Amstel Gold Race, Brian, is nuts.
Yes, it does. It's got a crazy race. Always produces the drama come the end. I think Visma Leserbyg will be happy to get Tej Benoot on that podium. Very important race for them. But that was huge for Tom Pidcock. The first big one-day victory for Ineos Grenadiers.
Pidcock takes it ahead of Mark Hershey, Tej Benoot, Van Sevenant in fourth place, Paul Lapera brilliant in fifth, ahead of Madouas, Mollema, Pacher, Bilbao, and Michael Matthews out the pack. Michael Matthews, he'll be one of many big names licking their wounds today. You can do a lot, but you can't do it all, as Mathieu van der Poel has found out, Brian.
There's a lot of riders that will be, kicking themselves. We did say to all these teams, are they happy with the riders that they have there? Unfortunately, Honoré wasn't the one, but this was the moment that Van Sevenant said, look boys, I'm happy to take fourth place here. 600 metres to go. Right, get on my wheel and I'm going to tow you to the finishing line. I don't want these 5 riders to catch, otherwise I'm going to finish 9th. I'd rather finish 4th, and that's what he decided to do. While back at the peloton, Zimmerman's there, everybody was just sitting and waiting too long. And at this stage with Van Sevenant at the front, Tej Benoot, he had to try and surprise because he doesn't pack a sprint like Tom Pidcock and Mark Hershey. Hershey was just following which he thought was the quickest way with Tom Pidcock, and it was. Tom Pidcock he went at the right time. Barrier, it was 150 to go, maybe inside, giving Hershey a little time to try and come by, but Tom Pidcock was tiring a little bit towards the line there. Hershey coming late, but luckily Tom Pidcock didn't celebrate too early and takes the victory, which is again huge for Ineos Grenadier. Very poor start to the season for Ineos Grenadiers. They only got their first victory in Itzulia with Carlos Rodriguez. That was their first World Tour victory. This is their second this year. It's a poor start to the year. Big race like this, it kind of turns it around a little bit.
Well, we've got Kwiatkowski to have a chat with us. I think Tom's a bit breathless and busy. Here we go.
Well, congratulations. Take us through that race. You tried to open up early, and
I mean, it was like it felt like we have everything under control and from the start, but I think we kind of exposed ourselves that we were losing numbers and numbers. The boys did an amazing job for the pretty much entire race, but then in the last 70 kilometers, 60k to go, we kind of had the feeling that we have to play around with Tom on our own, which was a tough part. It was relatively big. Good job, mate. Oh, mate.
Good on you, man.
Sorry, I couldn't come back. Good job. And he's one of many. Oh, sorry. And the team. He rode pretty much from kilometer zero come, and we take responsibility on our chest. But still, I think with the headwind coming from, I guess, west side maybe of the country, the finish line was headwind. So entire race was kind of, the people from the back were keep coming back. Was hard to accelerate and make the group much smaller. But I think Tom was in the right place always at the right time, which that was our main objective, to keep our leader out of trouble, and yeah, that's why he could finish like this. He had really good legs, I suppose, and it's finally the victory which he deserved already a few years in a row came this year. So yeah, a chapeau.
Just can you tell us, were you surprised by the scenario of the race in the way that attacked a lot of riders this morning? They were all expecting Mathieu van der Poel to attack. Didn't really happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're expecting much from Mathieu, and I think he's targeting the biggest races always, and I think his eyes are on Liège-Bastogne-Liège, I suppose, as well. And it's never really easy to recover from Paris-Roubaix, so. I think we could see that from Vermeer as well, that he was not there when he was in the Flemish Classics, but I guess, he will bounce back from that, and, but yeah, at the same time, Tom also did Roubaix, so, chapeau to him with, sore hands. He managed to win Amstel Gold Race, which is, a massive results if you think about doing back-to-back such a races as Roubaix and Amstel.
Amstel Gold Race has been won by Tom Pidcock, to my mind, for the second time, to be honest. But anyway, he was beaten by an erroneously placed laser beam back in 21. Go and look it up. But he's got there now. Well, it was, I guess, one of those days. May well be that it's all about the build-up, of course, to Liège-Bastogne-Liège for Mathieu van der Poel. A lot of teams fatigued out there, Brian, as Kwiatkowski was saying. Even they felt the heat at Ineos Grenadiers, trying to sustain themselves for Tom.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange in the end, still significant, and it was here that it kind of started to kick off with, with 35 kilometres to go. There was a couple of steep climbs over the top, and, the breakaway riders started attacking, and over these kind of final kind of kilometres here, from kind of 35 to just under 30, that was the significant part of the race today.
Certainly was. Selections, when they came, turned out to be significant, and it was in and around that Coburg climb as well. The Keutenberg was really our launch pad, Brian.
It was. There was, a few tentative attacks, but I think when this group of 12 got together in the last kind of 26 kilometres, I think they all kind of knew that this was significant. Okay, the 12 never stayed together. We came round that kind of famous corner onto the Coburg for the last time, 18 kilometres to go. And it was Mark Hirschi trying to get rid of, the less strongest riders.
Well, 16 kilometres from home, the bell, essentially. Final passage of the finish line before, indeed, the end of the race itself. And it started to fracture just a little bit. Mark Hirschi was getting extraordinarily active. Tom Pidcock looked to be marking everything out, and when he drifted past his three compadres in this quartet, and had a look-see. He was looking in their faces, wanting to know what they'd got, and in the end, he had just that little bit more. More than anything, Brian, it was timing. He did it.
Yeah, 150 metres to go, struck the front, and Hershey followed the right wheel, but didn't have enough speed to come through in the end, and Tom Pidcock eventually wins the Amstel Gold.
Sweet victory, Brian, for him as well, after coming so close in the past.
Good job, Bravo.
Congratulations, Tom. 3 years ago, you thought you had won the Amstel Gold Race. This time, it's for real. What does it mean to you?
I was going to say, yeah, it's great to win for the second time, but that might create quite some controversy. But it feels really good. I mean, you know, this year's been so tough. The start of the year, made big sacrifices and been away from home so much. So now to finally put it together, get the hands in the air, it means a lot. And this race, I always love racing, and it's pretty special.
What is it about the Amstel that you love so much?
I don't know. I think I always just do a good race here, and I mean, today the team fully behind me. Kwiato is going really well, but he's fully committed to me, and to be able to repay them, it's really special.
Then you end up in the finale with 3 other guys. Were you confident about finishing it off in a sprint? Did you feel in control?
Half and half. I mean, my hand after Roubaix, it was this week I was struggling to sprint. I had a lot of shoulder pain because I couldn't hold my bars properly, but it was so I was not so confident, but it's just how it was going to end up.
Just before the Keutenberg, you move up to the front group. Did you sense that could be a decisive moment?
I did. I mean, I knew that this was going to be the front group. Whether more guys came across, I don't know. But I knew that this was going to be, that's already the final here.
And then everyone is looking, well, especially the audience at Mathieu van der Poel. He's not there. Were you surprised about it?
I think everyone was looking at each other at this time in the race. And, I put in one attack and people followed, and then, another one, and Tiege and someone else was with us. And we were the last guys to go across to the front. So, at this point, it's not always about legs at this point.
So 2 weeks ago, you fell in Basque Country. Now you win the Amstel Gold Race. Looking forward to next week, to the Flèche Wallonne and to Liège. What does it mean for the upcoming classics?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now the pressure's off. It'll just be, we can just go and race and do our best, and dare I say, enjoy them. They probably won't be so enjoyable when we're in it, but it's a big relief, to be honest.
Enjoy this victory. Thanks.
Thomas Pidcock repeating our thoughts. Great for him to win it for the second time. Yes. Tom Pidcock just about to come to the podium. Might well do a little bit of signing as well. Great to see him here, and great to see him in such ebullient mood, Brian. He's very just unbowed. He's a tough guy. That's great to see.
Yeah, he packs a punch, doesn't he? I think the interviewer there talking about this race, why does he like it? It's one of these races, I think it suits Tom Pidcock's style, that you have to think very quick, smart, positioning, being prepared to kind of bunny hop, jump over things, and very, very technical. And as we know, that's what suits Tom Pidcock right down to the ground.
Well, suits us down to the ground today as well. And Thijs Benoot getting himself a podium here. Everyone who reached the podium will believe that they could have won it, and they'll be playing over in their minds as to what they could have done differently. I think they would have needed to have a different makeup of that group, because Tom Pidcock looked magnificent, but no shame for Thijs Benoot. Great result for him, and likewise for Mark Hirschi, who did more work than anybody else out there, I think.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too, just came up there a little bit short. Maybe he should have been the rider kind of leading out rather than allowing Tom to lead out. Might have been a different scenario. I think that's for the second time in quick succession I've seen a rider coming onto the podium and stepping on the wrong side. Tiesj Benoot just been ushered over to the right hand side there as third place. Hirschi second place, but I think it was a close call in the end, and you could see that by going on the attack that he wasn't overly confident in the victory, and you heard why from the interview, but he got that victory in the end.
Well, Tom Pidcock gives away 20 centimetres in height to Tiesj Benoot, and you probably see that now. He is on the top step of the podium. Packs a punch as Tom Pidcock, and did it today, finally winning the Amstel Gold Race. Wonderful. Hugely popular in this part of the world. I think a great deal of sympathy as well after what happened in 2021 when a laser beam beat him as opposed to the line itself, the beam not actually covering the line that they were racing to. But nonetheless, it's him and his anthem. I think this might be the corporate ident, actually. Cheers, fellas.
We gaan proosten hier, een applaus met Amstelbier op het podium.
Hey. Always gets a cheer.
Gaan we zo dadelijk hier een speciale selfie moment krijgen. Voor nummers 1, 2 en 3.
Well, I hope we'll see them again in the week, Brian. It's a busy time.
It is Flèche Wallonne Wednesday, Liège-Bastogne-Liège next Sunday.
Special moment for the first three riders for today.
Well, as well as the oh, this is nice. As well as the men's race, there was, of course, the women's edition earlier on, bedevilled, I'm afraid, by a hiatus within the race. There was an incident involving a police motorcycle, which indeed halted the race for an hour while that was dealt with. Thoughts, of course, with all of those involved.